I've timed it perfectly. I'm about to win my game of Marvel Snap. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stat Check episode 114, Biosanctic Winsurge, featuring a special guest to be named later. It's in the title, but whatever. I hope everybody is doing very, very well this fine Tuesday night. I did win my game. I'm just double checking that, and I can turn my screen off now. We are Stat Check. We're here to talk about all things Warhammer. We have a bit of a statsy focused episode for you today because we're about a month into the Pariah Nexus 1.2 metagame. So we figured it's about time to do a sort of month in review, see how well we landed on our data slate hot takes, all that good stuff. So I've got a PowerPoint presentation for everybody today, everybody's favorite thing. I hope everybody is ready for me blustering the technology, but I do have a new mouse now, so I can more accurately aim for things. I've been writing things on TTS, like with using like the mouse cursor, and it's been working as opposed to being awful. So things are going much better. But with that said, let's start with the easy bit at the beginning. Jeremy, Nathan, how you guys doing? How have your weeks been?
He says as he realizes that he's still muted. I'm doing well. I'm in the final home stretch for prep for Worlds next week. List is submitted. List lock was about 6 hours ago, and now I'm sitting here waiting to find out what my group is, because if anyone hasn't checked it out, I wrote an article for Goonhammer that actually covered the strength of this event, and this event remains the most competitive event you could possibly attend. Tougher than War Masters.
The self-selecting tournament that only invites people
that have generally won GTs themselves. Yeah, it makes it pretty rough. Someone was saying, I'm pretty sure I'm at the bottom. I turned to them and went, no, you're about halfway through the meta. And they're like, when I tell them I'm at the bottom, I'm in like the second quartile, they go, oh no. This is mainly like Canadian locals who are used to playing like me and Francois. And I go, yeah, Francois is like 80th out of the 280 attendees in terms of ELO rank. And you kind of go, uh-oh.
It's a brutal tournament. I'm looking forward to hearing the stories out of it this year. I've got my own GT in Scotland, or Super Major in Scotland that weekend for the Celtic Cup.
Yeah, you got the Celtic Cup. That's been a good time.
But yeah, it's always fun to see. I'm looking forward to seeing the epic highs and lows of high school football that come out of that one. It's going to be a good time.
It will be once again, the great ELO transfer like it was last year.
It's an invitational tournament. Surely it shouldn't count for ELO.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's at least 5 rounds and at least 24 players. Counts by my books. If they start cooking the results, then sure.
It's not Swiss because you can't play people from your country, right? So
it is still technically Swiss. It just has an additional restriction.
I think that's just a for fun, fluffy tournament that shouldn't count. Shouldn't give ITC points or anything either.
Yeah, the company that owns the ITC won't award points for its own event.
I think that based on how long it takes to get tokens, sometimes I think that's fair. Nathan, how you getting on, Fred?
I'm doing great, actually. I've done 2 interviews in like the last 3 weeks for jobs, hopefully, so we'll find out how that goes. I may have told some of them during the job interview that I made a podcast, and so if they want to watch it, that's their choice.
For anybody who may be watching for the purposes of Nathan getting a job interview, he's a wonderful human being who deserves love and money. And you can definitely support one of those 2 things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would appreciate like a loving, wonderful working environment. I won't lie. That would be great. That'd be really cool. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. We'll find out at the end of the month how kind of that stuff kind of went, and then we'll figure out what Nathan is doing next. Otherwise, 40K is going great. I've been working towards getting my hobby space cleaned up because it is a disaster area, so that I can actually work on projects in a meaningful way. But yeah, built some stuff, got some stuff kind of going on. Hopefully start playing some games of this new meta soon. Haven't really kind of gotten into that.
Nathan, you don't do that.
I don't play Warhammer 40K. I just commentate on it a lot and tell people.
The Discord yet? That's the thing we should do.
I don't know if we've pinged the Discord yet, Ines.
Oh no,
on that.
We all forgot.
Oh man, we're great at this. We're doing awesome.
It's 6 o'clock on a Tuesday. Shouldn't they already all be here?
It's true. The whole Patreon Discord should just be in here all the time.
We've pinged them at this time almost every week for the last 2.5 years. So
true. How about you, Ines? How are you doing this fine Tuesday?
I'm sending Discord messages. I'm doing very well. First of all, new season of Arcane came out, and that's consumed my life. Holy shit, God, I love that show. I'm probably going to rewatch all of season 1 again before Saturday. because I have like the day off on Friday, I think. So I'm going to rewatch it all again and all of part 1 again for season 2 to be ready to go for Saturday's new episodes. It is the best show on television, and I stand by that. So that's been good. I also picked up a whole a shoebox full of Eldar models to go with the stuff that Dan sent me, because I decided that I'm going to actually commit to doing that for my winter project. So I picked up a box of 5 Wraithguard, 10 Wraith Blades, 30 Guardians, some Dire Avengers, some metal Super Guard for 4th edition. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's get an Eldar book ready. Let's get Eldar ready to go, because as we all know, there's an Eldar book coming in to start of the new year, and there's no way it's balanced. So I figure get ahead of the curve, be the best Eldar player in the world as well. Everyone else did it. I can't imagine it's hard. So, every time I watch Eldar play, it's just herpty derpty derp. I teleport around, I do infinite damage, and nobody can hit me. And I figure, well, if they're going to kill my Gene Stealer cult because everybody else keeps goddamn winning with them, then I might as well have a backup plan of the other most broken army in the game, because GSC and Eldar are joined in never ever.
You're forgetting balanced. We also got a Guard and a Knights book at the same time, and those have never been problematic, have they?
I can't imagine January is going to be a fun time for any of us. I'm hoping to get through LVO, and then we can embrace the chaos.
Eldar book drops the day before LVO rules lock.
Look, at least that state, once we get through LVO, it's 7 months till WTC, and I have to care about the game again. So, look, Vic, Eldar are so terrible right now that I can't imagine them getting worse.
They are, and spoilers to what we're going to dig into, one of only 4 factions that have not won a GT since we switched.
I have 5 in my list. It's going to be great when we get to that and it's wrong.
Cool. Well, one of them isn't real.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, okay.
Imperial Agents has a codex.
They're not real. Although they are above a 40% win rate, so...
I think we get an indirect focus detachment for guard. I hope they get a detachment that just straight up allows them to ignore the indirect penalty.
Isn't that just what the previous detachment was? Don't move.
No, that was a combined regiment, you see.
It just doesn't have anything for the second half.
Yeah,
or it doesn't have anything for the regiment.
Still get buff.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Well, they nerfed Accolons, right? So everything's fine. The world is fine.
I mean, they haven't yet.
Yeah.
If anyone's been living under a rock, they released a small rules errata and FAQ for WCW, the World Championships of Warhammer, that's coming up in just over a week. And in it, they removed Accolon's ability to ingress at 3 inches. They just get to do it when they come in on their turn.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Cali Cup for not using that, bastards.
Wait, they're not?
Apparently not, because it's not in the WTC FAQ, and we're using the WTC FAQ. So I'm a little.
Well, it's funny because there are things in the WTC FAQ that thing directly opposes.
I'm gonna just bully Dave again before the submission.
I'll bully him too.
Come on, Dave. Actually, Dave, you're probably watching.
Bully Dave.
Come on.
Yeah, come on, Dave. You're a wonderful human being, right?
Nobody needs this.
Nobody needs to play a rule that the WTC set up that was immediately contradicted by GW themselves the day afterwards.
Exactly.
I don't know. I feel like we should just all send Dave DMs right immediately after this show, bullying him into submission to do this. Use our star power for some good.
Look, if I have to play against Aqualod's on stream at the Celtic Cup, I will just never go to another event again. I'll quit 40k. I don't want to have
Nas, the Aqualon nerf is not enough, but it at least makes them less aggravatingly frustrating to play into.
Did anyone else for the collective excitement in the room when Jeremy paused after they removed Aqualons? God, yeah, no, we
can all dream.
Unfortunately, you kill Aqualons and they pay 2 CP and they come back. That's the problem. Now imagine having to pay CP for your stuff to come back, but.
Yeah, but at least that one they don't have to roll. They could be playing the GSC detachment where they could pay 2 CP. They could pay a CP to have a guard unit maybe come back on a 4-up.
Oh, that's great. I love the GC Codex. It's such an abomination of design principles.
All right.
Let's talk a bit about the structure of the week. So today we're going to be doing, as we said, we're going to be doing the stats for the week as usual. Nathan's got them all ready and prepared and pretty and ready to go. And then we're going to do month in review. And then we have a special guest who's in the chat right now, who is FLoof Cox, who was at the Cali Cup and played Anthony in round 6. Don't quote me on that. 7? He said round 6 in the chat, but I think it was round 7, who played GSC at the event. And we'll be talking about what the fuck is going on with GSC, because I think people kind of care about that. Because that army.
We'll get someone who can talk at a normal pace to talk about it.
Hold on a second. I am absolutely in agreement with you.
I can see Anna's just struggling to speak at that pace for a moment.
I can speak at a normal pace as long as I put a break between every third word.
It's just ellipsis, 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 ellipsis.
Can't do it normally. Anyway, Nathan, roll us away. Take us through this week in data.
Well, there's going to be a common thread throughout this podcast where we talk about Gene Stealer Colts excessively much. The number one performing faction by win rate was Gene Stealer Colts. They have 27 players, which I think is actually the most players I've seen them have in a while.
They're pushing above 3% fairly regularly, and yeah.
Yep, so they're at 2.9% this last week. They won 60% of their games. They have 2 event wins, 3 top 4s, 8 top 10s, and a 1.62 for overrep. Directly behind them is Adeptus Mechanicus with 14 players for 1.5% of the meta. A 59.7%.
Small factions rise up.
Mm-hmm. They're going to do it. Adeptus Mechanicus is just next. They're just going to be the next one up after GSC, apparently. They had 3 top 4s, 6 top 10s, and because there are so few of them, they had an overrep of 3.13 for the weekend. Definitely has nothing to do with small player population ballooning that number up. Definitely not even slightly. In third place is Astra Militarum, 68 players, 7.4% of the meta. That is so many guard players.
That,
by
I
a
believe,
percentage.
makes them the most played of the
It
weekend.
does.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jesus.
They popped up above Necrons, who have been the most played, I think, pretty consistently for a while now.
Since like January.
55.4% win rate for them. 2 event wins, 4 top 4s, 11 top 10s for a 0.86 for overrep. And fourth is Blood Angels, 50 players, 5.4% of the meta, a 53.8% win rate, 1 event win, 2 top 4s, 6 top 10s, and a 0.58 for overrep. And then in fifth place is the Short Kings, the Leagues of Votan, 39 players, 4.2% of the meta, a 53.1% win rate, 1 top 4, 6 top 10s, and a 0.37 for overrep.
Votan is a good gatekeep faction, apparently.
Yeah. The other event winners from the weekend are Chaos Space Marines, who won a event, top 4 to 5 events, top 10 to 9 events. Tau won 2 events, 2 of which are their 3 top 4s, 7 top 10s, and then Chaos Demons won 2 events, which I don't understand, and I'm going to skip over entirely because it doesn't make any sense to my poor little brain.
Germany, which is wild. But Germany, I've chosen to believe that Germany's metagame is just whatever the fuck their best players decide to play, because Votan are like apparently undefeatable in that country. So
I mean, wasn't that event playing with like 60% of the armies were index armies instead of codexes?
44%, I think, the guy on Monday said.
I should go look at that at some point. But yeah, like Demons had a 50% win rate, 2 event wins, and a 0.94 overrep. They're like perfectly balanced.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that, but it certainly seems to be true.
The faction with the most event wins for the weekend, though, with 3 event wins, 3 top 4s, 7 top 10s, and a 1.04 for overrep, is Orcs.
They're back.
Orcs are back,
Broken
apparently.
Army, Orcs.
As long as you don't look at their win rate too closely. Well,
I mean, their win rate's fine. It's 48%.
Yeah, they're just doing great, guys. They're doing amazing. And then the last 3 event winners are Imperial Knights, who had a 45.1% win rate, which makes them the second worst faction of the weekend. Dark Angels, who were the 4th worst faction of the weekend with a 45.6% win rate and an event win. And then Space Marines, who technically tied with them by win rate, also had an event win this weekend with 4 top 4s and 11 top 10s. The worst faction of the weekend was Imperial Agents, but they only had 5 players, so they just barely count.
Custodians still had a 44% win rate?
They did.
That's
We're actually
respectable for a
they're the
army.
only faction outside the bottom end of the win rate for this week.
And there's only 3 outside the top end, and that's Guard just barely, and then AdMech and GSC just being in the high, we play weird armies.
Yep. So, I mean, it's not too terrible. Custodians are the 3rd worst, 2.7% of the meta, 45.2% win rate. And then Dark Angels and Space Marines round out the bottom 5, each with a 45.6% win rate.
Solid.
Drukhari have fallen from their great heights to 45.9% win rate.
Maybe Drukhari didn't deserve the nerfs, guys. Don't know.
I mean, 45% is where they should be, right?
It's within the balance window.
It is in the window. It's true.
What's their over rep?
1.22, but they only had 24 players for this weekend. So
Less than GSC. That's depressing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, who had more players? Who had less players than GSC that we can laugh at?
Who had
Sure,
less
Legend.
players than GSC?
Custodes, Drakari, Grey Knights,
Drakari.
Thousand Suns, and Admech.
Yep.
Ow.
There's a
I
bunch
mean,
of
it's
really
still
good
not a lot of
factions.
players, right?
No, but it's funny.
Like you should expect at a 100-player tournament there to be 3 GSC players, based on the current math. It's
Yeah.
not a ton. Now, Cali Cup appears to have been an abomination in that part with 7, but
Yep.
such is
I think
such is the way.
It will depend on how close people are chasing the dragon that is the top meta faction.
We also we know there are GSC changes coming in the December FAQ, right? Because they literally said that. So, you know, between them, Miracle Dice, and Space Marines, I don't know if then now is the right time to bandwagon. You're going to get 2 weeks of use out of them if you start building the army now, right? There's not necessarily the best.
Yeah.
The
I
best
want to
time
shout
to
out
jump on.
Death Guard, by the way. We didn't really talk about them. 45 players, 4.9% of the meta, and a 1.95 over rep.
That's 0.1 over for every death shard in their list.
Are 18 Death Shroud a problem? Maybe, but they don't move that fast, so you should be fine for at least 2 more
death shard
turns.
is the same points as a Bulgrin now.
Oh.
Yeah, they're both.
I mean, at least
six
Death Shroud
points.
can never move more than 4 inches.
Unless they hit charges.
Sure, you can quadruple your movement when you do that.
I love playing my infantry unit that that has a 5-inch charge when it rapid ingresses. It's so funny. You got a rapid ingress and still not roll a 1, 2, or 3, or a 2, 3, or 4. That's not good odds to hit that charge.
Yep. Heaven forbid if anyone happens to slow you in any way.
Look, if guard players just started playing Earthshakers, I'm sure they'd be crushing Biosanctic and Death Shard players. Until you
I'm
stand
sure
next-
that's what's
I mean,
causing them problems.
If you
right
stand
now.
next to Mortarion, you ignore modifiers, Jeremy. But
Are people bringing Mortarion again?
Yes.
yes.
18 plus
Okay.
Mortarion is a hilarious list.
Ah.
Not
So
saying
I'm
it's
just sitting here
necessarily
thinking, I was like,
good, but I would expect that at least a few people bring it to Worlds next week.
I mean, Quentin was talking about playing it on one of the
I'm
other
well
ones.
aware that he was, and I think someone may have disabused him of that notion recently in a practice game. We'll find out soon.
we want to.
Does your terrain
Well-
like walking places very slowly? Yes. Okay.
Does my terrain? My terrain.
Well, you can bring three of your own ruins that have flamers. It's quite funny.
All right,
Yeah,
let's
it'll be
transition
interesting.
over to our new thing where we have visuals
right.
again this week.
I have visuals. I need to do one thing quickly before we do the visuals, otherwise it's going to get real confusing. We'll just turn off that brand button so I can show
Hope-
the other brand button. There we
This
go.
is where me and Jeremy judge Innes's ability to produce a PowerPoint with data visualizations
Oh,
on it.
God.
I mean, it'll be better than anything. Actually, no, that's not true. I actually am quite proud of the article that I put out this week. It's significantly better than what I did the week before.
Well, let's see how this goes. So we are going to be having a look, and look, I even have a mouse cursor on this one. Look how goddamn high tech I am. All right, guys, you're gonna have to believe in me. Okay?
Don't anyone say we don't listen to feedback.
I listen to every piece of feedback that no one sends me. So we're going to be talking about the first roughly month of data. Jeremy, what's the first date included from this? This is our by classification on the metadata dashboard, the 1.2 Pariah Nexus metagame. So basically everything that happened after the data slate and after the balance window, including the FAQs.
Yeah, so all of this dropped in the week of October 14th. And so I think it was the 14th. Maybe it was the 11th. Anyways,
We've
yeah.
had 4 weekends
It was-
of data.
Yeah, so it was the weekend of basically the weekend of the 19th, 20th is where things really start being kicked off in terms of adoption. So that weekend was about half and half. The weekend afterwards, there were 2 events that still use the old rules, and the weekend after that, there was 1 event that still used the old rules. So all told, we have 4 weeks of data and just under 50 events, something like 13,000 games, I think.
So a decent set of data to pull from. Obviously, we're still learning the metagame. People are still learning things. We're still discovering lists. And with Worlds coming up, I'm assuming there's been a decent amount of people hiding some stuff because there's always some innovation coming out of those lists, those events. But it'll be very good to see where people land. So let's dive into it. So first up, I have the top 5 in win rate from the from the 4 weeks of data. So in 5th place, we have Chaos Space Marines with a 52.3% win rate. In 2nd place, we have Astra Militarum with 52.4%. In 3rd place, we have Chaos Demons, 53.5%, Votan with 54.7%, and then crushing it, the only army currently sitting outside the balance window in a positive direction is Genestealer Cults, who have had a 60.3% win rate, meaning the average GSC player, which admittedly, not a huge population, is kicking it at a 3-2 record on average, which is wild in comparison to everything else. They are, like mathematically based on this, just over 10% more likely to win a game than the next best faction.
Nice. That doesn't seem terribly out of whack, actually, as far as metas go for early metagame.
It's in the order that I can read them down the line. Thank you.
This is going to be one of those sessions. All right.
Start at the top, read down. You're going to have to get used to that.
Next slide, please, Innes. Next slide.
Okay. Next up, we have the bottom 5, shockingly, which is in... You'll prefer it in this way. This is all over the place. Okay.
I love the inconsistency.
From the bottom, we have Orcs, 47.7% win rate, which for a 5th place win rate army is pretty good, actually, right? Like, I'd call that pretty healthy. In 4th place, we have World Eaters with 47.1%. In 3rd place from the bottom, we have Grey Knights with 46.2%. In 2nd place, we have Space Marines with a 44.7% win rate. And in last place, pulling up the rear, an army that doesn't really exist, Imperial Agents, 42.9% win rate. So the current gap between last and first, excluding Imperial Agents, is just shy of 16%, which is one full win across a 6-round tournament.
That is impressive. Like, this actually feels like one of the most balanced metas I've seen in our almost 3 years of doing this.
I would agree, with the exception of Base Marines, who are 0.3% outside the balance window, Imperial Agents, who aren't an army, and GSC. Every other army is currently tracking within the balance window.
That's not bad. That's really good, actually.
Now, I'm sure I'm prefacing this because you have it in the next slide, in one of the next slides. What about the other metrics?
So let's have a look at some other metrics. So as we've seen here, main things are sticking out. GSC doing very good. Guard, we all thought were going to be one of the big winners coming out of it, doing very well. And then some armies that we expected to be pretty bad, like Core Space Marines and Imperial Agents, not doing so hot. And World Eaters, who copped a nerf while being kind of terrible, didn't do amazingly. Next, we have overrepresentation, which is how our faction is doing in relation to their appearance rate in tournaments. So if a faction has a 1.0 overrep, it means that for every percent of the metagame they are, that's how much percentage of top 4s they're making up. So if a player was, if a faction was 10% of the metagame, we would expect them to make up 10% of the top 4s. If they were making up 12%, they would have an overrep of 1.2. And then if they were making up 8%, they would have an overrep of 0.8. So here we have the factions that are doing better than average. I don't have the factions that are doing worse than average because it's just not that interesting. A lot of those are just factions that haven't made top 4s or have made very few. So we have Chaos Knights with 1.24, so they're showing up 25% more than they should. Adeptus Mechanicus with 1.28, 28% more. Thousand Sons at 1.29. Necrons at 1.48, which is wild given that Necrons are the most represented combined Marines faction. Necrons have 3 times the player base of Genestealer Cults, and they're still putting up 50% better than they should in terms of top 4 performance, which is insane for a faction that
So what you're telling me is there's still a problem.
I think Necrons are still very good, and people should be respecting them more than they are necessarily.
This is a 10 sheet is a hell of a thing.
Well, and the Doomsday Arc. And then in first place for both win rate and overrepresentation, which maybe signals a small amount of problem, we have the Genestealer Cults with a 1.88% or 1.88 times overrep, meaning there were almost 2 times as many Genestealer Cult players going in the top 4 than there should be based on their player population. So as we said, they have just a shy of 3% player population. They're making up by that rate almost 6% of top 4. So 1 in 16 top players or top 4 performances is going out, which is really high for a very low player performance faction. Now, we do often see this with factions like this. We saw that with Harlequins in 9th edition, for example, where because they had a very low player population and a good win rate, the effect they almost multiply with each other, right? You have very, very few people who generally tend to be more dedicated pilots, and people who've been playing them through whatever was going on before, who have then had a power level increase and become very good, who are able to make the use of that, and as a result it kind of self-propagates itself. but these are still problematic numbers. Very clearly,
Yep.
Gene Circle are coming out very ahead of the general trend. Now, is part of that because there aren't as many bad Gene Circle players or casual Gene Circle players? Partially, but these numbers wouldn't be this insane if they weren't very clearly just a problem.
How do they
Okay.
look for event wins compared to the rest of the field? Did you look at that at
So
all?
I did. That's the next slide. Weird that. It's almost like you've seen the notes. So,
Innes, you're not supposed to pull back the curtain on.
Oh no, the curtain's way back on us all the time.
the curtain shouldn't exist. I don't want people to think there's a curtain at all. We don't have a curtain. We don't do
You
show
guys are
notes.
gonna
But
see
we do send yeah, I was very proud of they asked me for pictures of the slides, and I was like, ooh, here's my pretty slides. So for event wins, we have Space Marines and Dark Angels and Gene Circles all tied at 3 event wins. So Marines combined actually have like 10 event wins total, because there's like 2 for Space Wolves, 2 for Black Templars, 1 for Blood Angels, right? There's definitely a few more going on top of that, which puts them at like 10 or 11 event wins. But as individual sub-factions, like Core Space Marines have won 3, which is pretty high for a faction that is...
I'm pretty sure they're all Vanguard too.
Yes, Vanguard's been doing pretty well.
Check.
Yeah, I know Colin K did pretty well with a Space Marine Vanguard list, right? There's definitely been a bunch of them popping up. We've had 3 wins for Dark Angels, 3 wins for Gene Cults. So Gene Cults, they're doing very well. They're not converting a ton of tournament wins because, again, they just don't have that many players. But if we kind of run the numbers here, right, 3% of 47 events, which I think is the number that we have, is just about 6%, which is what their overrep is tracking for, right? They're tracking for 6% of top 4s and 6% of event wins, which is roughly in line with the 3% player population being twice as good as it should be.
Interesting. So, just because Core Space Marines was interesting. So it was the Denver 40K Fight Club. Ben Neal won with Vanguard. Colin K won the Geek Shack Anniversary with Vanguard. And then, and this is the one that kind of surprised me, you had Sean Olsen, who won the 4th Annual Flames of Autumn GT with Ironstorm.
Yeah, let's go. God, I love some Ironstorm. I know, I want to say Mark Pocock this weekend won like a smaller GT with Blood Angels Ironstorm, which I quite like the look of. Just Lombardi's Death Company and then Gladiator Reapers.
PA Ironstorm. That is a very fun list.
Yeah, I keep looking at them like those 2 lone ops, like Sangador Mephiston, are really solid in Ironstorm. It's a nice little detachment there. And then, yeah, we have pulling up ahead of the curve. We have Orcs and Necrons both with 4 GT wins each. And then absolutely crushing past, we have Astra Militarum, who have won 7, which is insane. So just
1 in every 6 GTs in that set, I think. Maybe 1 in every 7?
It should be 40, 47, 49.
So 1 in every 7.
Yeah, so 1 in 7, while making up 7% of the player population, which is...
That's a 2 overrep on event
for
wins.
Event wins. Yeah, they're doing twice as well as they should in terms of event wins, which is a really, really, really big number for Astra. I think Astra are just very, very strong right now, and you can kind of see that bearing out in the numbers. If you go and take a look at Farside's tier list from this month or from this week, you can see they put Gene Cults and Astra Militarum at 1st and 2nd place. And I don't think the stats are bearing any disagreement with that based on my perception anyway. Okay, next up we have who's been having no event wins. We've got Imperial Agents, we've got Eldari, we've got Adeptus Mechanicus, we've got World Eaters, and we've got Thousand Suns.
Damn it, Anthony.
It is rough times to be some of these armies. Thousand Suns have fallen off a cliff in terms of player population. They're sitting at 64 players over the data set, which is really small. It's only 2.5% of the metagame, so 1 in 40, which is a very, very low number compared to, I think, where Thousand Suns were sitting even just a couple weeks ago. And then, World Eaters are almost double that, but aren't converting event wins, which is insane. World Eaters do, hilariously, my favorite stat of the data set, have the highest win margin of 31.5 points. When World Eaters win, they crush you. It's just the winning bit is the hard part for World Eaters, as it seems. And then, yeah, we have kind of the expected things. Eldar, all this kind of thing.
No breaking heads. That demon win was in there.
Yeah, event wins it's the top 5 for event wins breaking heads. It's not not just every list. There were 47 events. We could list out every faction, and most of them would have one next to them, except these guys.
Also, hi Fred. I assume that's you.
Could be Malta.
Not even doing that badly. 5 out of 25 factions, right?
26.
Not having an event win yet.
And honestly, one of them is agents. Come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, 26. So it's we're not doing too terribly. And it's early in the meta still. We're only a month in, And while we have had 47 events, roughly like 47 events in this data set, it's not that odd.
Yeah,
we had factions
we'll double
without
that by the end of the. Oh, actually, we probably won't. We're probably only going to get like 3 more weeks of data out of this pack. If we're
And this-
getting maybe 3 or 4, depending on when the slate drops in December, and there won't be a ton of events in December. So this
the
is probably
spread isn't-
more or less representative of where we're going to end. But
the spread of GT wins isn't that terrible at the moment. Like 7 for the top isn't some of the ridiculous numbers we'd seen originally, where we were looking at like 3 of the next factions up subbing together gave the same number of event wins as the top performing faction or something like that. So I think it's okay.
Yeah, it's definitely no Eldari at launch.
Ignoring the second biggest event, like we didn't just speak about Nicholas and his win with Demons 10 minutes ago. Crazy. So yeah, it's very interesting to see the factions that aren't losing out. Admech is probably the one that I'm like the most generally surprised at, because Admech are actually tracking pretty well. They've got good win rate, they've got good overrep, we've seen them doing well. They're just not really converting to event
I think the
wins.
problem with Admech is they tend to run into a wall sometimes. Like 2-up AOC can be a real problem.
It is not fun. Yeah, I played a game against them with Ironstorm at LGT Invitational, and it was very funny watching them try to kill dreadnoughts. And eventually, game just like had to spike dev wounds eventually on something to like take down one of the Redemptors. It was quite depressing.
Yep. And I mean, there also aren't that many players. You increase your likelihood of being able to win an event in the stats just by having a player base existent.
Yes. Yeah, Admech is what, 3%, not even 2% of the meta?
It's 1.7%, which means we would expect based on their overrep, we would expect them to be 2% of the, like slightly over 2% of the GT wins based on
which
their
is
overrep.
Less than 1.
There's been 50 events, so there's like an expected value of very roughly 50-50 of them having won a GT at this point in the metagame, right? So I don't think that's too crazy. Yeah, the only one that like, I'm just kind of trying to think if there's any of them that really stand out as being kind of terrible for that. World Eaters is the only one that I think maybe, just with them being 5% of the metagame and having an overrep of 0.78, we would have expected them to be like 1.5 event wins at this point, but just not quite getting there. So yeah, but I think most of these factions will kind of fall into that range of expected value of event wins based on player population and overrepresentation right now is 1 or less than 1, and they're just not quite hitting it. Thousand Suns,
which is what make Guard showing up like twice
base.
as often as your average faction, but then winning 7 times as many as your average faction should, a problem.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what this stuff gets crazy for, right? Okay, now I have two last slides. I'm going to do them in the order that I don't have them in. So first one is quick stats. These were just 3 things that I pulled out that I thought were interesting. For Necrons, we have 45 top 10s and 20 top 4s, which is first for both of those, and 186 players, which is also first in the population base. Second place is Astral Militarum with 177. Third is Chaos Space Marines with 144. Fourth is Tyranids with 141, and then fifth is Blood Angels with 135. Obviously, combined Space Marines is somewhere in the thousands. I'm sure. But Necrons very clearly out here being like very, very popular, very, very prevalent in the metagame still. You should still expect to see them, roughly the math is roughly 1 in 13 players, which is a lot. That's a lot of Necron players. Eldari, the complete opposite, 0.28 for overrepresentation, meaning, for every 4 Eldar players that we expect to have in the top 4s, they're putting slightly more than 1 of them. They have only had 2 top 4s in the dataset across 47 tournaments. That's 200 potential places. We've seen 2, which is kind of awful. If you extend that out to top 10s, Eldari actually pick it up pretty hard. They go to 18, which kind of says to me that like Eldar are doing fine in terms of getting to like pretty close to the top. They're sort of like in the middle of the dataset, but they're really, really struggling to convert it to the top end, where most other factions are kind of like, their top 4s is roughly 40% of their top 10s. Eldari is very, very, very clearly outside of that range.
Yeah, and for context on that 18 for top 10s, you're basically sitting right in between Sisters and Demons.
Yep, exactly. They're doing, very clearly fine at getting to the top tables, but are not getting past it. They're sitting at 48% win rate, which is completely respectable as well within the window. Like, nothing wrong with that. Okay, the last special trait I have, and I'm going to be honest, that graphic is starting to get a little bit busy because I think this is the 3rd thing I've used it for now, but I have the tier list that we did from our end of Pariah metabase, and I think I did a right job getting this to all look pretty cohesive, but This is each faction where we ranked it at the end of the last metagame, whether we thought it was getting better or worse based on the arrow, and then also what their current win rate is in the new metagame. So if you wanted to know a faction, take a pause here, have a look. You can find it.
Seems like we should have said Votan went up.
But yeah, there are a few in here that I think are really interesting to me. So first one, a few of the factions that we said were kind of terrible in the trash tier. Chaos Knights have jumped up a decent amount to back in the balance window, as have Orcs, as have Custodes. And then Space Marines, I think Space Marines were sitting somewhere in the 30s, so they've very clearly gotten better, but have not gotten like significantly better, while Imperial Agents continue to be kind of terrible. For the F tier factions, we had Imperial Knights staying about where they were. We had Eldari and Tau both getting better, and both have definitely gotten a little bit better, but not significantly. I don't think either of those are crazy. Gene Circles have very clearly jumped significantly. I think anybody right now, based on our stats, we would have them solidly at or near the top of S tier. I don't think there is, if we were to do this right now, which we'll probably be doing again in about a month, GSC are very likely to be at the top of our bracket. For the D tier factions, Grey Knights are the only one that's not seemed like a pretty reasonable bump. Demons have always had a solid win rate. They just struggle on the other conversion stats. But sitting at a 53.5% win rate for them is very respectable. Death Guard have very clearly moved up to doing okay. World Eaters have gone down from their C tier. I think we all looked at those nerfs as being a little bit punitive. It was very surprising to see them catch changes, but it really, really was not pleasant for them to get those nerfs, and we're kind of seeing it. They're one of the few factions that's not had an event win. So very, very interesting to just see why did this army get nerfed, right? What happened in the process that resulted in an army like World Eaters at that stage getting nerfed? I think that's an interesting thing to think about in terms of what it means for future factions.
I think someone had Angron come back 3 times against someone in the studio, and the studio went, no.
I think
we should maybe just make that thing a once per game thing. Maybe things shouldn't come back more than once, just as a general.
True.
And maybe it shouldn't be so random.
True.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, because I assume GW uses more broad data than what we use, essentially, is what it is. So there might be some consternations in the RTT space that maybe we just don't.
World Eaters are definitely one of those armies where if you don't know what you're doing into them, you will lose very horribly, very quickly.
Yeah, but it's also just kind of thinking, okay, what signifiers are we missing that would indicate that would get nerfed, right? Can we, should we be looking for that and that kind of thing? Apparently lists are public with the pools, so maybe we'll do that after this. Lists are public with the pools. No, that's fine. Serrano's just confusing me in chat. Okay, Dark Angels. We predicted these guys get hit. They have fallen to 46.9% win rate. How much of that do we think is because people have just stopped playing Dark Angels because there are more compelling options now? And how much do you think they're actually bad?
I think more compelling options.
Yeah.
If you kind of go through it, what do they bring?
The Lion, Deathwing Knights, Azrael.
Yeah, but it's also, and that's the thing, that's what they bring, and then you look at it, well, what if instead, I want to play Vanguard? The old blade-driven deep combo on Deathwing Knights was funny, but it's not that good. But now I've got this really cool Ventress character that has a Vect aura built into him.
He sure does, for some reason.
In addition to giving one of my units Deep Strike.
Yeah, it's an interesting set of changes. CSM, we're sitting in B tier. They're sitting at 52.3% win rate for the patch, which I think is pretty respectable. I think CSM are completely fine. They got some small changes, nothing that was insane. I think they made out from most other armies coming down around them.
Did Liam's veterans list go down?
It went down 30 points. It was basically
nothing really, but it's more just funny than anything else.
Yeah, basically. Votan. I think for me, one of the standouts here is that Votan are a beneficiary of a weak metagame. The weaker the metagame is in general, the stronger Votan are, because they are playing, to use the term that Reddit was very annoyed at today, they are playing a fair Warhammer game, right? They are just doing
they play honest Warhammer.
They're playing a generic game where they fight you face to face. They have a few shenanigans, but nothing crazy. They have good mobility, but nothing crazy, and good damage, but not a lot of rerolls. So, it's a very honest game. And Votan, when they get more time and more turns to play that kind of game, tend to perform better because they're just playing a kind of honest game. I think I would put CSM in that kind of category as well. The generic CSM list, if you don't go down the full Renegade Raiders car park list, are very much playing that. We are going to just play Warhammer at you and do the normal actions with some good OC and some good movement and some good shenanigans. and they're both beneficiaries of a weak metagame in that sense, where things are not as crazy, right? We saw Thousand Suns and Sisters come down pretty significantly, and I think GSC and Guard are not enough, or GSC especially, are not enough of the player population to really punish that gameplay.
Votan also don't particularly mind GSC as much.
I would hard disagree with you on that one, but that's fine. A shout out to my opponent from last weekend, from 2 weeks ago at Battle of Britain, who didn't score primary in the ritual.
Ow.
Yeah.
Fair. I guess that's build dependent.
Brutal.
It might also be experience dependent.
That might also be true. Okay, then we have Tyranids kicking at a 51.2% win rate. Again, we had Tyranids in B tier. They're kicking it in B tier. Like, I don't think any of those armies particularly changed. I think Votan benefit from the armies above them coming down more than anything else. But yeah, Nids and CSM just kind of treading water. Necrons and Admech in A tier, both kind of doing the same thing. We had both of them as being just broadly fine. And I think both of them are continuing to do that. I don't think either of them maybe deserve to be in A tier anymore. If I was like going through it and like re-ranking them now, I think Necrons would probably still be in A tier. I don't know if Admech would be, just based on their stats. But obviously this week was very solid performance with their 3-point-something% over rep. It'll be interesting to see where that army continues to land. Black Templars, on the other hand, whoo, baby, that is a fall from grace. 45.7% win rate is a very, very steep drop from them, based on, you know, some pretty heavy changes, right? The Crusader changes for the Primaris Crusader squads, and, you know, that's very clearly borne out here. And also some of the characters run up, like Helbrecht and Grimaldus and stuff, right? So it's very clearly bearing out. There are not a lot of compelling reasons to play Blood Angels or to play Black Templars. I'm seeing a lot of different Ironstorm builds now, right? We just said we've seen the Blood Angels army, the Blood Angels Ironstorm build. I've seen some Guilliman Ironstorm popping up to just like spam out Mercy's weakness for 1 CP again, just microdose playing the army as it used to be. Yeah, Jeremy, that's the face I made too. Remember WTC have reverted the Stormraven hovering rules.
I don't care about WTC until I have to play a WTC.
Yeah, but just remember. So yeah, as always,
I'm aware that's
really
the one
sucks.
correct rule change they made this week.
That's fair. My favorite 40k joke will always remain. Yeah, Guilliman does great things for Storm Ravens, but wishing machines live longer with Calgar. So. Okay, and then we have Blood Angels and Guard. So Blood Angels, I still not sold on Blood Angels as an army. Obviously, we've seen them doing pretty well, but they are, you know, they've not really won a ton.
They've been doing perfectly fine,
but their win rate is definitely bearing out as them being just fine, which I think is pretty respectable. So I think definitely maybe been off the money there. Just kind of waiting to see how that army continues to perform. There's a lot of people playing the what if I just didn't run any shooting builds, and I think those main ones are maybe getting found out a little bit, but that's not always true necessarily, right? Like playing some shooting in that army might just be the way to do it. You know, Anthony went 7-1 with it at Cali Cup. Very clearly a build that works, right?
Vindicators are pretty solid.
Vindicators is a pretty good data sheet as long as you're willing to play the Casino Lottery. And then Guard, which I think we predicted we're going to get up, and they very clearly have. I don't really have anything to say here. Guard are really good. The Aqualon change will hopefully make them less really good, but
Tank
they are
is still a hell of a data sheet.
Tank Commanders are still a hell of a data sheet. The Lehman Russ battle tank, when you stack 1,000,000 buffs on it, full rerolls is pretty good in a low versus skill army. When you can hit on 3s with full rerolls with a data sheet that's meant to hit on 4s, like that's pretty solid, right? And the Scion Command Squad benefits from the more infantry heavy the metagame is, the better the Scion Command Squad gets. And a lot of the good lists right now are infantry based, which is a very good place for it to be. Then we have our S tier from the previous metagame. We have Space Wolves, who have come down. We have Drakari, who have come down. We have Sisters, who have come down. And we have Thousands who have come down. I think all of the nerfs to the S tier metagame were pretty good. I think Exorcists are probably still too strong. And the Castigator as well. But I don't think Sisters are broken. I think Sisters have exploitable weaknesses, while still being very, very good.
Yeah, I'd agree. I say this as someone taking Sisters, so I'm slightly biased, but they definitely feel a lot more fair than they were back in September.
Yeah, I mean, Sisters across the board just went down 200 points, right? A lot of other things went down.
Yeah,
but
I think my list that I'm taking to Worlds was 1830 beforehand.
Yep. Yeah, and you're starting to you actually have to make trade-offs in Sisters list building now where you just didn't before. You know, you have to decide, am I cutting the Triumph? Am I cutting Val? Am I cutting all of my scoring, right? You have to cut something to fit the army in now, where you just didn't before. You could kind of have everything. Thousand Suns, we're seeing player abandonment. They've definitely dropped off a cliff in terms of player base, and their win rate is treading water at 50%. I think that's completely fine. I think that army is very reasonable. It has exploitable weaknesses now, but it still has good matchups. It just is a solid army that if you're good at Thousand Suns, you can win with, and if you're bad at Thousand
Still
Suns,
does
will
a
not.
fuck ton of damage.
It still does the most damage of any army in the game if you let it. I will say though, Gene Circle being good is very bad for Thousand Suns. That matchup is miserable.
Yeah, it's surprise. There go all of your Cabal points.
Watching Magnus activate into an Aberrant squad and not kill 3 of them is one of my new favorite things to watch happen. I'm just like, yeah, dude, I'm in cover, so I just have like a save against all this, and also minus to wound kicks out so you're like on 4s. It's just like, that's grim.
Aberrants are T6, right?
T6, yeah.
So that means that his little shot wounds them on 5s.
It's still 4s because he gets +1. It doesn't. It's -1 to wound if strength is higher, but it puts him to 4s and 3s instead.
They have the correct wording of the -1 to wound. I wish the Orc strat had that.
Really funny. Yeah. And then, yeah, I think so. That's kind of my overview. I think Blood Angels, we've definitely maybe missed the mark on. I think it just remains to be seen exactly how good that book is, but it's trending towards better than maybe we thought it was. I know Anthony was on that side, so I will shout him out for being probably more correct than us on the Blood Angels book. He'd also played Blood Angel more recently than any of us, so shout out to him for that one. And then, yeah, all the things at the bottom coming up, maybe a little less than I would have hoped for. But yeah, it's doing very well. And yeah, for anybody who's trying to follow along at home using the dashboard has not been updated for this week of data, so it will only have
the week before, actually,
or the week before. So you will only have 2 weeks of data if you're using the dashboard at the moment, whereas we have the full 4 weeks, which is why we're going through it now, and you can listen to it on the show, and you can get it all before anybody else can. That's your secret privilege for being with us a little bit early.
Yeah, consequence of me interviewing for new jobs and WCW prep is the data gets done a little bit later each week.
Sick. I'm going to let you guys prepare for a minute because I need to go and prepare something. Because there's more stuff to prepare for this week.
There's more stuff to prepare for this week? What do you want us to do? What are we going to do?
Introduce our guest.
Oh, I guess we could introduce our guest.
I think it'd be a pretty good idea. Just give me 1 second to give him a heads up so he doesn't just randomly get dragged in here.
Do you want to let me do these 2 videos before we do that?
Yes, actually. Those are okay, that's the prep you're talking about.
Okay, sorry, guest. You're going to have to wait just a little bit longer while we do something. I'm glad that you can hear us, because there was a moment where I was like, we could just drag the guest in mid-assembling something and just be like, look, a guest. But we won't do that to you today. I don't know. I think the data looks fine. The data looks reasonably good. We'll find out how some things pan out over time. And then everything is going to change when the Fire Nation attacks, or whatever this slate update is that's coming in like a month.
Well, yeah, because we're going to have... Let me get this straight. So while this is like a time of no releases, we are going to get something for Deathwatch in December, some kind of balance and rules change in December, and then in the new year, we're going to see Guard Eldari and Knights.
Yep.
Like, it feels like we're not going to have... Like, right now, it actually feels kind of stable. It feels like we won't have this again for the rest of the edition.
Hard to say. I mean, we have another update, like, after that triplet of codexes, right?
Yeah. I just more mean that, like... Yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with that, but it is interesting.
Yeah, I will say that GW has done, like, their best work for balancing this edition more recently, so it feels like maybe the hiring of some high-end competitive players to their to their team might have helped. Maybe
hiring people that play at a high level and have a good understanding of how to break the game are pretty good at fixing the game when it gets broken.
I mean, I wouldn't say all the time. Not
that's
every.
That's why I said tendency.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Wizards, for all of their faults, when they helped drag pro players into Magic the Gathering to like help them with the game design and creation, did help a lot with the competitive design space. Don't listen to every high-end competitive 40K player like to pretend that they're some kind of game designer, because they are not. I've definitely listened to a fair number of them suggest things that are wildly overtuned for their faction that they love.
Issues, terrible at fixing them.
Or sometimes they suggest solutions that they like that benefit only them and their faction of choice. I don't know. Maybe somebody loves Tower or Necrons or something, and I definitely have never heard somebody who loves those 2 factions suggest a change that is horrific for the rest of the metagame, but great for them. Not even once has that happened.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
I definitely haven't had Custodes players tell me that they should have transhuman back in this edition or something like that, which seems
That's
kind of
100%
wild.
Yeah, actually, they
Yeah,
should
let's
be
just invalidate the warden roll while we're at it.
Yeah. Or, you know, some just nonsense. People suggest all sorts of wild nonsense all the time for things under the guise of it being perfectly well and balanced and all that their faction needs to be good.
All right, I
It
think
will be
I'm ready to play
interesting
the
to
first of the
see.
2 videos, which should be
Oh,
about
man,
a minute long.
we have
They're
slides and now
only
videos.
a little sketchy. Look, for everybody who's watching this, just know that I asked 2 people that I know to be very intelligent to send me videos, and I
I don't know what this is, and
love
I'm
these 2 men
scared.
dearly, but
I'm a little frightened.
No, see, the reality here is they know that we have a scuffed show. And so they just took that to heart.
I'm Nassim from Team England, one of the 2 vice captains there. I recently joined StatCheck as a coach, and I guess a little bit about me is I started playing Warhammer 40k in around November 2018, started taking part in events mid-November 2019, roughly, just before the TTS COVID era. Guess a little bit about me is I play mainly a bit more board control style esque armies with quite a lot of fast gun or just gun behind it. I've known for playing my guard, for playing my Tau, a little bit with my GSC and other French Space Marines that I've run in the past. But those are the main armies that I've played. I'm usually known within a team's format for pushing a differential. As that's usually quite my role, as I tend to be quite aggressive as well with the armies that I use in a non-conventional sense. And I'm essentially here to help out anyone who's looking to take the game to the next level and approach the game and be able to help push larger scores, or maybe just have a better sense of when to be a bit more of an aggressive player and help push those differentials, or really look for opportunities where they might not always exist. So, hit me up.
okay, and now I have one more, because if you're going to do something good, do it twice, right?
I want to play Jeopardy music during this segment. That's all. Just like do.
Hello, it's Liam VSL from Belgium, and I just joined StatCheck as a coach. Woohoo! So who I am? So I'm Liam from Belgium, like I just said, and I started playing 40k in 2019. Since then, I basically took part at most of the major events in the 40k world. I mean, I think the only one I didn't go is like LVO, but I went to like WC, LGT, etc. And I even won some of them. I'm a Chaos player and an Eldari player, so I master most of those factions. I mean, my main one are Harlequin, Thousand Sun, Chaos Space Marine, and Death Guard. But I master most of the other army to be able to help teammate or stuff like that. But more than an army, I also develop a really specific playstyle, like a really aggressive one. Like I'm a team player, so I always push for 20. So if you want to learn more about those armies or more about how to play aggressive, get me as a coach. To do that, go on statcheck.com or contact the email address coaching@statcheck.com, or you can even contact me on my social media on Facebook or Discord if you know how to find me. I mean, but voila, see you soon. Bye.
Apparently, the tallest man in 40k doesn't know how to use a mic.
Innes, you've died. Your audio, but yeah, Liam.
There we go.
Liam, there we go. I was like, oh man,
twice. I was muted on the software and on my mic just in case. So, welcome to our 2 new coaches, Nassim Fouchain and Liam VSL. If you're interested in hearing from any of them, as well as any of our other coaches, we are revamping the coaching website at the moment. But drop us an email at coaching@stat-check.com, or stat-check.com/coaching. If you'd like to work with any of us, we would absolutely love to have any of you on board. What that does give us is we now have 3 of the top 5 in the ITC on the StatCheck network coaching you. So if you want to grow as a player, drop us a message.
ITC is not real. Where are we sitting in terms of top ELO players?
2, 4, and 17, I think, for the 3 of us. So
I'll take that.
yeah, Liam doesn't do a ton of singles, but when he does, he usually wins. So
Liam is currently 20th.
20th in ELO. He's done pretty
You're
well. I have
second. Nassim is 4th.
Nassim way too big on my screen right now. It's really, really bugging me. So I'm going to need to close the windows. So yeah, that's all I'm saying. I asked 2 really, really intelligent people to send me videos, and then I got a message of how do I upload things to the internet, and how do I use Google Drive, or how do I record on my phone? And honestly, I promise they're a way better at 40K than they are at using technology. So yeah, please do check them out. It is a pleasure to have them both on board, and we will. Nassim is coming to play with us for Champions Cup, Challengers Cup next year, and Liam was with us at Champs Cup this year. So it's a very natural growth of the network. So yeah, hopefully we'll be seeing more of them. We maybe even try and get some of them on the show sometime if you guys want to hear that.
We'll make sure to do a sound check before we pull them on.
Yes, I would like to do that. Yes, but with that said, and I'm really sorry for the intro that you just had, FLoof. But let's bring on our guest for the episode. We're going to be talking a bit about Gene Cult, specifically the context of how good they are and maybe what should be done to them and why they're good. FLoof, could you kick him in, Jeremy?
Yep. But damn.
Hello, I'm here to tell you that GSC is a very normal and balanced army, and nothing needs to happen. I promise. Don't worry about anything. It's, it was just one good week. Just, bump in the road, that's all. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
Jeremy, you know more about this gentleman than I do, so go for it.
I know about as much as what Anthony told me, which is he was a pretty cool guy
you were
when they
paying
played.
attention at the weekend, so...
I know. I just want to say I really love that I have a great game with Vanilla, and then he's like, hit me up, we'll get you on stat check, we'll talk all this type of stuff, and I'm cool, great. And then I learned that the episode I'm gonna be on is the one guy that I know isn't here, so I'm just thrown in.
That's welcome aboard.
Hey, I met this cool person. Bring him on in. So hi, nice to meet all of you as well.
Nice to meet you too, FLoof. Tell us a bit about yourself. Why did Anthony think you're a cool guy, and why did he bring you on?
Hi, my name is FLoof. I make GSC content, and I'm also the best GSC player in Northern California. That's the hot take. I'm kidding. There's probably someone better than me here. I just like to be loud about it. I've been playing GSC since 9th edition, and for the past, essentially like a year, I want to say last season is when I really decided to try and be serious and like take competitive 40K. To a point to where like I want to be like my goal is to end a year top ranked for my faction. I win a lot of events. I try and look and figure out what's best in the meta right now. And like, I've got this shit inked on my body. I really do love and appreciate GSC. This is my faction. So that's the elevator pitch of me, I guess.
I'm not letting you have it for this year. I'm sorry, dude.
I know, you son of a bitch. I didn't have to worry about you for like 6 months, and then I'm just gonna go in fucking out of nowhere. God, I had to deal with Robert Rogers, Mr. Caps Lock, and only had to worry about him. But now I actually have real competition. Who would have imagined?
Oh, I finally got my 4th event in. It's like a GT. It's like an RTT. Sweet.
I know.
Damn it,
I looked at it the other day because I saw you above me. I was like, this, god damn it. And it's like 60 points too.
Warhammer's not that hard a game, You just gotta...
It's true though.
It's really-
Innis will soon also have a GSC tattoo.
They submitted Battle of Britain for it. That's what it was. I have a 12 team event as my 4th result for GSC. Sweet. 91 points.
I hate it here.
Oh, sorry. So, FLoof, what did you play at the weekend? You played Host of Ascension, right? Tell us elevator pitch.
Yes.
We've all heard about Underclaw and Biosanctic. What's the elevator pitch for Host of Ascension?
So I've been running Host because I still think that I'm one of those wild people that I think if you really did vibe with the index detachment, like if you were a specialist out of all of the detachments, I think that there was a higher ceiling on Host of Ascension. That might be the hot take. That might be me being incorrect. Obviously, Outlander Claw obviously is very intensive, right? You have to know how to play Warhammer to do well with that. Or I guess I should say I was more confident in myself being able to do it. Now, for the longest time, I had a mixed list, which was like 2 biometa bricks, 2 neophytes led by characters, bunch of acolytes. Go forth, my friends. But after the balance change, I was messing around one night just looking at lists, and I saw that 120 neophytes and 40 acolytes was 1,200 points. And I was like, damn, that's like the basis of a good swarm list, but instead of a swarm list where like you have like 200 to 300 points to work with, I still have basically half of my army to figure out and, put forward, right? So I went with this list, and it's not just I think at the end it ended up being 176 bodies. I say 180 just for clarity, because it's not that. With Cult Ambush and being aggressive, you're getting 200. I've had games to where I'm playing 300 models, and the basis of this list essentially is to just you have like 2 to 3 surgical damage pieces, and you go, okay, what can you do? What has the most bullets, the most attacks? Cool, that's dead. Now I'm going to just stand on you and hug you with a 300 OC list, right? It's pretty fucking straightforward. And it's just the way I like to play lists. I love swarm lists. I think they're some of the most fun to have in 40K because it's just, even if my opponent has no primary, hey, buddy, you killed like 300 guys. You got to feel good. Corn's happy. I played 2 wolf opponents and they were living. It was great.
The truly most memorable part of playing Gene Silicon is your 3 dead piles of dead, permanently dead, and dead, but the unit's not dead, so I need to keep it alive for banners. That's the worst. But you have 3 army trays when you play this army. It's the worst. I truly despise it.
Yeah, it's you have things in like 3 to 4 different states, and like when you have so many models that the whole side of your table is bogged up and you still have stuff in your box, it does get a little annoying on like how to figure stuff out. There's even stuff on like fitting it on the board, right? One of my favorite things was in the game I played with Vanilla was wild. If we want to go into details about that later, we can. But one of the things was like on my turn 3, I had left most of my acolytes off the board because he took fixed Storm and Cull, and I kind of figured my way of getting into this game was reducing how many times he could score that. So I actually gave up turn 1 primary for the most part. So on turn 2, there was no point to bring in acolytes because he wasn't really standing on a whole lot of points, right? So we go to turn 3, and I dropped like 15 to go deal with some death company, a couple all over the board, and I had 5 more that I just didn't have a spot for that made sense. So I just let him die and then rolled the Cult Ambush. And ironically, I got him back and was unpunished.
Hilariously, they don't die till turn 5. You just can't bring them in, right? Is that?
Oh, you can't?
Works? I don't think so. It's like
I might have lightly cheated, but it didn't matter.
I have no idea how that works. If I'm being honest, you're not allowed to do it in WTC, so it's never come up.
I think it does work the way that FLoof did it, because it said not brought in by the end of the 3rd battle round are counted as destroyed.
But do they count as destroyed immediately or at the end of the battle?
I'm gonna go check.
Yeah, that's
thanks, GSC, for giving me a rules headache.
Great. Turns out I'm a cheater. I'm gonna go away.
No. Misplays happen all the time. It's just you happen to do it live on air.
Yeah, you haven't done it live there, and I'm curious because I've never seen it happen before because I'm not allowed to normally.
Well, it was also very funny because like I ended up I had a 5-man in until turn 5, brought them in to go for a 9-inch charge, whiffed it, and was like, well, GG's.
Yeah, that sounds like GSC as well.
But yeah, it was, this list just has a thing of, I saw all the points being down to where I can just flood the board with bodies. Even if you have all these unsupported groups, acolytes just have the rerolls on the wounds to get there to just be an annoying trade pieces. Neophytes, the damage isn't consistent without really a character leading them, but if you just shoot 80 guys, like, you're gonna get there eventually, right? And yeah, the list was super fun. The change GW did to where you can 3-inch deep strike from Cult Ambush was also one of the biggest factors for that as well. It helps a massive amount because, man, if I lose a neophyte squad turn 1 or turn 2, cool, I have a move block on turn 4 or 5 or whenever I need it, right? Yeah. And it's the list catches people out. If they're not playing like dotting their T's and crossing their I's, they're gonna fuck up. I even had it
So
to where
what's the fail state for the army?
the fail state is getting pushed. The fail state is just getting fucking pushed. Is someone just being like, I'm just gonna hit you, right? Which ironically, you know, my matchups for the majority of the weekend was like Blood Angels and World Eaters. But it is something to where like if I put too much stuff up, and if you just run and take space, I'm gonna drop 100 to 200 guys over the game, yes, but it's all gonna be on my third of the board, right? And that's a real way to keep me off. I can only bring in 120 man somewhere in the middle of your army a turn, and that's gonna not be as effective when it's no longer the Primus unit, right?
God, I do not miss Nexus giving you double 3-inch deep strike.
Yeah, I would love that. Oh my god, it would change the whole list. But so there is that can be played around to where a lot of my games I would leave just 20 or 40 unmanned neophytes just on the board to just sticky my home and then just go walk up and touch shit and just be annoying. Yeah, like if my opponent just kind of like throws some JPI onto the board, well, I can shoot at them, kill like 2 to 3 guys, and then just like go tackle them with 20 guardsmen, right? That are regenerating. God forbid they run up a rhino, then I'm there forever, right?
Playing keep away with the banner so they can't tag you. You can coherency pull. I love that mechanic.
Yeah, I think this army list is very designed to want to go first because I remember actually when you were doing your rundown of Outlander Claw the first time you'd won, to where you had said like Pariah Nexus is very geared to reward you for going second. Well, I wanted to think, okay, well, how about we set it to where the mission rewards me for going second, but my army list rewards me for going first, right? Because if I'm going first, it's going to be pure strains going up and probably move blocking, or doing some type of action and just holding my opponent there. And then turn 2, hey, 3-inch deep strike in front of you. Hey, 3-inch deep strike in front of you. Hey, 3-inch deep strike in front of you. And just
it's really fun with Aquilons do it. Why wouldn't it be fun for other armies?
yeah, right? Listen, I still say we were one of the first to do it, all right? I'm upset that it's now in like 14 other armies. Truly.
Like Sept just had it at the same time we did, technically.
I'm counting 9th or whatever. I don't know. I want to be angry and yell at the sky. God damn it.
Well, we were counting. No, we've had it since 8th edition. It's been great. Technically, we've had it since 7th, but we used to get to set up from reserve and then move. It was even funnier.
Oh god, I never played since. I actually started. I started at like the back end of 8th with like Tyranids. Actually, I didn't start into GSC until 9th.
All right, so I did just do a quick dive. You're fine.
They die on turn 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They die. They die at the end of the 3rd battle round if they haven't been brought in. So you did it fine.
Okay.
It's a WTC thing where WTC prevents you from even engineering the situation where that would happen.
But they used to be, the rule was like you would die, but you didn't die until turn 5. So you died, right. But you couldn't be brought in after turn 3, but you died on turn 5. So that was how it worked last edition. So
I will say the play was very stupid. It just was, right?
But if it worked,
also,
I'm not going to bring this in on a 1/3 chance that this unit could do something else on the next turn.
But if it's
so what it was it literally was like his death company were on my backfield, right? And the only point was to like put 5 more guys there to go deal with them, right? So it's either I have 5 guys who can walk 6 inches up the board and maybe be relevant turn 5, or take a 30% chance and maybe, just maybe, I can go have them be relevant somewhere else. So
I mean, that's a math equation you have to make a lot with GSC. You're just like, is it better to have this one Gene Stealer alive and potentially during containment, or do I want a 1/3 chance of having his unit back? You're constantly doing that math. GSC, it's a like very odd army for that purpose.
With the rest of the list, it's like I think base like 15 cult ambush rolls. If everything were to die all at once, I'd be making like 15 cult ambush rolls. If one 5-man is just kind of useless, I will find that later when my opponent kills another 5-man, right? Like, it's just going to kind of spawn in. So I can be kind of loosey-goosey with that. I will say, the dumber play, and I can't even put this on vanilla because it was just dice, but I'm going to tease him for it forever if when I see him again, is Mephiston was tagged by like 5 Acolytes and 5 Pure Strains. He swings into the Pure Strains. I'd charged everything in. He swings into the Pure Strains, kills like all but 1 because Mephiston is bad in melee. Then it goes to his turn. He goes to shoot, and he uses both of his hazardous profiles. And he rolls. I had wounded Mephiston down to 6 wounds. and he rolled Snake Eyes for the Hazardous and failed every Feel No Pain. And Mephiston, just like Kobe from the 3, was just like, killing myself. Woo! It was beautiful. I loved it.
We have a local who has a running tally of how many consecutive hazardous checks Mephiston failed at one event, and it was 8.
It was beautiful. You want to know the best part? He killed both the Acolytes and the Pure Strains, and they came back.
It's always fun to have a net zero game state. Just a net zero effect. It's fine.
Yeah.
Zero CP heal your opponent. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're
there was a
playing
question
Potion
earlier.
Ascension. Oh,
Sorry, Nathan, go for it.
Just so our viewers who aren't as GSC parlant as
yes.
and you yourself, FLoof, you're playing essentially the index detachment, which is Host of Ascension.
Yeah.
And what's the play pattern that you're really looking at when you're playing this list? Because you talked about it a little bit. It's a massive amount of infantry. What kind of is your general plan of attack when you're playing this list on a table?
Do you want me to be in depth or just kind of like
stat check? Whatever feels right.
Okay, cool. So to go over the list real quick, it's 4 characters because I don't want to give up both Cull and Assassinate that easily, right? Clamovis for Deep Strike Denial, Sanctus because he's annoying, Primus and Benefactus to attach to Neophytes. It's 120 Neophytes, 35 Acolytes with Flamers, 5 5s, 110, and a 5-man of auto pistols that are Gretchen on my backline. That was the easiest way to explain them to my opponent was, hey, these 5 idiots are my Gretchen. Cool.
4 up, get a CP at the end of your command phase.
Exactly. It was their weapon was relevant once a game, or out of all 8 games, right? 2 5-mans of Pure Strains to just be infiltrators, and then if I lost Defender and got out infiltrated, I had a 5-man of Metamorphs with Scout to say, well, if I get first turn, I'm going to go eat your Scouts or whatever is in the midfield, right? Just go be annoying. 2 Ridge Runners to give +1 AP, and Survey Augur because I trust being able to hit on 5s. And that's just kind of the list. Sorry.
So, I don't know if you watched last week, but Innes had a specific comment about the Survey Augur.
I have a running tally of the times it's let me down. It's now double digits.
See, I feel alive when I roll a 1 on amount of shots because I just am waiting to whiff. Happened 1 round out of all 8 games. It was great.
We now know where all of Innes's dice luck when it comes to GSC is going, apparently.
I
played 1 in my
you,
Biosanctic and I hate it. I hate it so much.
My skill in 40k is somehow stealing my opponent's luck, so I have the best luck and they have the worst luck. You see it in my game against Vanilla when he rolls Snake Eyes for the hazardous check, and for my stream game against Ganyo when I kill his tank commander and he rolls a 1 to shoot. It was great. Never punished.
Sometimes you should just vortex your opponent's probability into the 0.
Exactly.
You know? And
let's
for
walk it
everybody else,
through.
Survey Augur's the ignore cover thing.
Yes, it is the ignore cover instead of
Means
spotter, so that
5s, not 4s, which means that applying the +1 AP is a little sketchy.
it's a little sketch, but you know we live on the edge. Anyways, to get into the list, basically you start with quote unquote 4 neophyte squads up and 4 acolyte squads up. It's actually 5 neophyte squads because I didn't want to do the math on how much shit I needed to have on the board to have less than half my army, so I just said I'm going to have a neophyte squad down and use one of my redeploys to pick it up. Right? Because generally at this point I kind of know where stuff needs to go. I don't need to redeploy everything. I just put it down the first time, and so even if I needed to put more stuff, it's just, hey, 1 or 2 neo squads are up. Cool, great. You then stick at your home point. You can leave some stuff on it. You can move some stuff around. But generally, it's you put a bunch of 5-man acolytes up to be behind walls to go take back a point. Sometimes just walk up onto it. There's been times to where, like, against World Eaters, they put some Berserkers on a point. And I just go, cool, great. I'm going to stand here and not fucking shoot you. But the second you decide to charge me, here is, like, all these hand flamers in the face, full wound rerolls, right? You stall until turn 2, and then you say, "Can you count to 100?" Because we're about to, and you genuinely drop. I'm joking. It's not the full 100, but you drop about like 40 to 60 bodies between acolytes and neophytes, and you hit your opponent as hard as you absolutely can. Their turn goes. They do all their movements. You generally want to like be able to have 2 CP up to rapid ingress another 20 man. and also maybe go up if you're being shot, right? And then you get to a point to where on your third drop turn, you have to start making back your primary, because I play very passive the first couple turns in terms of that, because I feel what I'm going to do is out attrition my opponent to where they can't deal with me turns 4 and 5. So I need to start making those 10s and those 15s, right? You have the rest of your drop turn, which is generally the Benefactus coming down, blowing something up, and then all of the rest of the acolytes coming in, unless you just roll 5-ups like a mad dog. And it generally, how the play pattern gets to is by that turn 3, you have gotten back about 40 to 50 bodies that are just in cult ambush, which your opponent now feels defeated, and they no longer want to play 40k because they're like, nothing matters, everything just comes back. He keeps rolling 4-ups. Oh my god, he's rolling 4-ups. And you get to a point in the game to where you don't even need to really shoot. This is going to sound weird, but like it's a swarm list, so you do kind of run short on time. You just kind of walk at people, and you go, I have 100 to 200 bodies with 2 OC each. I'm just going to stand on points. If you're tanks or vehicles or monsters, I'm just going to stand and out OC you, and you just deny your opponent the ability to do anything. Host does have some of the highest attachment in GSC. I was playing against Chaos Knights, and in one turn I picked up 2 dogs and a Night Lancer. The Night Lancer was just from the Benefactus with 10 Acolytes with Hand Flamers going, +1 AP, sub bitch, ain't it? Anyways, you're on a point. And then the War Dogs was took 5 wounds from a Pure Strain, and then an unsupported Neophyte squad with Heavy Stubbers and Seismic Cannons said, hello, yes, you also have 1 AP. Please die, right? Like, now my opponent that brought 2 bigs, 5 smalls has half of his list, and I have 100 guys that he just does not have the attacks for, right? You just bog people to a point to where they don't have the attacks to keep playing the game. And then you have a bunch of 5-man idiots everywhere to do any kind of actions, get your engages, get your who gives a shit.
Yeah,
and
it
you
really
just
does just
went
sound
off
like the
scoring.
natural culmination of, let's just roll call ambush rolls, and they'll even out eventually, the army.
Yeah. The spirit of the list is, I'm going to make this army rule a problem so GW fixes it. Until then, cult ambush rolls will continue. Thank you. Please watch me roll this 5-up.
Imagine rolling 5-ups. Couldn't be me.
I will say, as much as I joke about it, the list does just kind of have enough stuff in it.
It so
That
doesn't
it-
matter. Like the same thing with Biosanctic
Yeah.
and Outlander. You play a game plan that assumes nothing comes back, and then everything goes back. You're like, ooh, a piece of candy. It's great.
Yeah,
You're just
it really is that. Like the list does have enough stuff to where if you play it just right, to where opponent walks on the point, cool. I put enough acolytes on it to where they don't score primary, and I do a little bit of chip damage. Cool. Now your turn. Okay, I keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
The
Ultimately,
list you play
neophytes
just
are
that.
deep striking models that are 3 points per OC. Right? That's
Yes.
just good enough.
And then you get into the game to where I had the stream game against Ganyo, even though I lost because I had a really bad turn 1 strategy play. I should have ran at him and jailed him, but whatever. Where I got like 80 neophytes back. And your opponent's just like, what the fuck do I do against this? Oh my god. You know, it's just, it can be soul crushing, you know? So that's how I like to make my opponents feel. Crushed and sad. I'm kidding.
It's
No,
true.
I had a really good weekend. Generally, it was really fun. San Diego was awesome. But yeah.
Very fair. So I want to finish up with one proper thing. Vic VJ in chat asked, how would I adjust GSC from here? I'm curious to hear everyone's thoughts on this one. Let's start with the non-GSC players in the room. Jeremy, what do you think?
I mean, I've made my stance on this quite clear. You need to remove the randomness of the comeback mechanic. Give them a fixed number of, these things that we once upon a time had called reinforcement points. And you just basically say, hey, GSC, at Strike Force battle size, I think that's the standard one we play. Yeah, Incursion's 1,000. So at Strike Force, you have 14 reinforcement points. And every single unit in your army that has Cult Ambush right now just has Cult Ambush 1 or Cult Ambush 2 or maybe Cult Ambush 3. And you just get to choose when something dies whether you want to spend your points on that. Can't bring back the same unit twice, but you can, you could recycle your entire army
Okay, did I just lose all my audio, or is something going wrong?
I was
Nope.
wondering that as well. I heard a boom.
I muted my mic.
I wondered if it was me.
Right. Okay. Cool. I was like, I heard a bash, and then everything stopped for a
I
second.
hit my mic and muted it, and then I set it back up and didn't notice that I had muted it. So
Sick. Yeah.
apologies to everyone who heard that.
Yeah, I broadly like the idea of just being like, you get a set amount of stuff back, and you can't. It just happens.
Yeah.
And there's no,
Maybe you
there's-
do it by
there won't
battle
be
round, where like you get like 5 points turn 1 and 2. You get like 3 points 3 to 5.
I stand by the most miserable experience playing against GSC being I killed 2 Acolyte squads on turn 5, they hit 2 5-ups and then drew 2 cards that they could only score because of those Acolyte squads. It's the most depressing thing that you have happen. It's like,
Oh yeah.
and then
Yeah,
realistically, revert like every single point nerf that was on an infantry unit or point buff that was on an infantry unit. Like Neophytes, Acolytes, Aberrants didn't need to go down. The character ones were fine, but those ones and the bikes were fine, but none of those changes needed to happen.
65 points for neophytes is kind of a steal.
Yeah, 135 for 10 for 5-man Aberrants is also just wrong. That unit's way too cheap.
I think it's fine.
I think you're wildly wrong.
I think the problem is that when you have not one squad up for 135, but 2 to 3 squads for 135.
truly is not that. Because I've played enough games with Biosanctic where I have gotten no units back and won the game every game comfortably.
What
But
would a
it
fair
is-
points for them be in your mind?
150, the thing they were before.
Okay.
I see.
Like the 10-man should have gone down, not the 5-man. The 10-man should be 285 for 10. The 5-man should be 400.
They were trying to avoid buffs being too good on the 10, giving the 5s a little more
The
play.
10-man is not that good. It doesn't like they're an abominable.
Then just leave it at 300.
No, that's fine. But yeah.
I think
and
you
then
just bin the regen
the-
mechanic completely.
the goddamn
just
Bridge
bin
Runner up a bit, maybe?
Maybe. So,
75 point?
to Nathan's point, one of the challenges with binning a mechanic entirely, especially for an army that already has its codex out, it means that you have to rewrite every aspect of
Everything.
it. Like with
They
AdMech,
won't
we saw
do
that.
it.
It was a page in the data slate where they did that, and they were just like they still kept Doctrinas. They just rewrote they just rewrote what they did.
What I would actually like to see happen with them is remove composition mechanic entirely, and then
Yes.
every single detachment's blip stratagem gets replaced with once per game reinforcements for 2 CP, and then you make it like 3 CP if it's on an aberrant squad, and then give them crossfire back in some capacity. That's what
Yes.
That would work.
Yes.
No, not Crossfire again.
Yeah, just
bring
make it a
crossfire
stacking buff.
back.
The first unit you fire something
Oh.
gets nothing, the second unit gets something, the third unit gets something. Don't make it like the
Okay.
overlapping thing. but just have it be
That's
like,
more reasonable.
yeah,
When you
just have it be
when you
like,
talk
once
about bringing
fire
back
one thing,
Crossfire,
yeah.
I think of the god awful
Drawing
trigonometry
lines.
that they would do.
Yeah, it's
I
fine.
would
like-
even take the like 9th edition like naturally deep strike out of 8/6 if you don't charge it. Like just something. I know I love Crossfire. Trust me, I want it back. But
I won't crossfire back anymore.
yeah.
The version I like, the one that I
I'm not thinking of
workshopped
what
was,
an 8-inch deep strike charge with Biosanctic would look like.
Don't think
Oh
about it.
wait, never mind. Don't listen to what I said. I forgot melee exists.
Yeah.
I think you just do something like what Innis proposed, where you make it some kind of like a judgment token-esque system, where you
Yes.
you get 1 crossfire token from a unit with the crossfire keyword, you get 2 for another unit that shoots, and 3rd for another one. And it just gives buffs based on how many
Yeah,
crossfire.
I would do
tokens,
it
like,
plus
your
1
unit
strength
has or
and plus 1
something.
AP on crits is what I would do if I was doing it.
Yeah.
Don't give plus 1 to hit. Don't give plus 1 to wound. Just
And
strength
nothing like
AP.
lethals or sustained or
Nope,
devs or anything
plus
like
1
that.
strength.
'cause-
Your
I
strength
think
3
one
goes to
token should
4.
give dev wounds. Yeah.
3 tokens should give dev wounds that
Yeah, 3 tokens should
roll
get dev wounds
over
and
like
crit
old
5s to
ones.
wound.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No,
You should also get
Three
roll.
three tokens should do a mortal in addition to the damage for every successful hit roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
hit
Yeah,
roll.
you
Ooh,
can
that
have
auto
excellent
is so
line.
dumb, you know?
Everyone remember
Yeah.
the old souped up shock attack gun?
Okay,
Jesus
we can
Christ.
move on now.
All right, we're moving on. We're moving on.
Oh, I'm
No.
kidding. My thing was going to be that is I think what I had it described to me as that I liked the most was if you had it like almost how Drukhari have pain tokens, or like it is the same thing. A resource, you spend the tokens to do something, but also I as a player can do something in the game to influence it, right?
Crossfire tokens. I like it. I like that idea. You get crossfire.
Weird. Crossfire. Where have I heard that mechanic before?
Definitely
So-
not that piece of cardboard that came with the 8th book, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely
you
not. I
can
still
use
use
them.
those.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I would say, okay, somebody's playing against Gene Cult right now. FLoof, from your perspective, what should they be doing to try to beat Gene Cults? Because that's the thing
Okay.
you should be carrying right now.
Okay, you do one thing. You either say, "Hey, I'm going to hold these 2 points and I'm just going to be over here because I'm scared and the GSC player is weird. They're the only one here that plays this army. What do I do?" Or you say, "Hey, I have this cinder block and I have this car that has a gas pedal. And I'm gonna put this cinder block on the gas pedal, and I'm just gonna run at my opponent so they stop deep striking anywhere and everywhere they want, right? At least I have the most experience from playing host, right? So that's the best way to deal with host. I couldn't tell you shit about Outlander or well, a little bit about Broodsurge and Xenocrate, but host is my thing, right? And it's just fill up the board, run at your opponent, just kill them, because at the end of the day, I'm a T3 or a T4 body with 5-up armor, right? Like I just die. So,
And consider playing Fixed Storm and Cull.
Yeah, that was the thing, right? Like I kept telling my opponents every round, like, hey, I have 6 Neophyte squads. You need to kill 4 to max Cull. You will probably kill 4. Do you want Fix? And everyone's like, nah, I don't have any experience playing it. And then fucking Anthony Vanilla like takes a sip of his drink. Yeah, let's do it. Why not? And then it was the perfect play.
Turns out BA can chew through 180 bodies pretty fast.
Yeah, it's kind of the nightmare matchup. But yeah, for GSC, I feel like I think a lot of people get caught out if they kind of middle in terms of like trying to be too defensive, or maybe I'll just cover go onto too many flanks or something like that, because GSC via deep striking has some of the best movement in the game, right? So I'm just going to go to your weakest flank, pick you off, and then make you not be able to go react to that, right? So in my opinion, either ball up, so when I do pick you off, the rest of your army is there to handle it, or just go full send and don't give me a place to fit, right? So that might be a very shallow understanding of how to deal against GSC, but that's what I always kind of tell people.
I mean, it helps with host. And then if you're going to tag stuff in host, I think the one that always worth remembering, tag near the characters or the banners. Don't let them do shenanigans. Just get them in combat, tag near the banners. Don't let them do weird stuff. One of the plays that you'll, like every Gene Circle player learns quickly is if something tags you and they didn't tag the banner, just pull yourself out of coherency and then regenerate the guns next to the banner. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it too much.
One of the things I always do is if I trail back to a point, the banner is on the point, and generally that's where the character is as well. And as soon as like my little T formation is touched, I pull the middle of the T. I do not care about the rest of them. I'm probably going to die anyways. On the off chance I live, I'm going to regenerate all of my heavy weapons right in front of you.
I'll take heavy on my seismic cannons. Thank
you.
Yep,
heavy on my seismic cannons. Get the fuck away from me. Yeah, you just blow them up. It's great. So tag the characters, look for the banners, tag the banners. Yeah, that's how you beat host, at least.
Yeah. Go watch his video on Biosanctic, or sorry, on actually you've done both now, haven't you?
I've done both now, yeah.
Yeah, so go watch his videos on that now, and look at what he doesn't want you to do.
Yeah, for sure. All right, FLoof, you said you make Gene Circle content. Where can people find more from you? Because you've been getting a very warm reception in chat. So.
Yeah. Very funnily enough, I haven't made videos in a while, but I am. I did film a bunch of stuff for a vlog from San Diego, so people can kind of see what it is to experience like people's first majors and all that type of stuff. I am at Nexos FLoof on YouTube. You can find me there. As well. Oh, hey, wow, you already found it. Oh, God.
I may have done a bit of research before you actually showed up, but
I know. Jesus, this is nice. All right, so yeah, go find this link. I'm gonna be putting out a video. I also did a video on like how to buy into GSC, what boxes are the best for it, and just a general overview of like the codex and stuff like that. More stuff's gonna be coming out soon. I really want to help I want to help people get into this faction, because in my eyes, it is one of the most advanced and like difficult to play factions, but also it is one of the most niche, and so there's no content in really helping people understand it, right? You have a very in-depth and hard to play thing, but no one or at least when I wanted to make stuff, no one really telling you how to do it, right? Unless you went to the GSC Discord and bugged Danny Porter for like an hour, right? So I'm trying to like fill in that gap a little bit. So yeah, that's primarily the stuff. Outside of that, I mean, I'll be in the Stat Check Discord. I'll be in the GSC Discord. I'll find me, ping me. We'll talk forever. I don't shut up. And yeah,
sounds good.
Sick.
We do have some questions for you as well, so make sure you stick around for the question section.
Oh, for me?
Oh yeah, we have questions.
We let people know you're going to be here.
Oh, fun! Oh,
yeah, we're not kicking you off. I just wanted you to wrap up and do like, hey, we just did your bit. I'm going to do the plugs now, and then we're going to do questions. So,
Yes.
Hell yeah, cool.
Just-
I'll have to do the plugs now. Fuck, I hate this bit. All right, everybody. I hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. We stick around. We've got questions coming up, but we're going to do the plugs now because we got to get paid. So, if you're enjoying the show and you want to see more of us, do remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the description. We'll make sure that FLoof sees anything that is for him. So, if you want to leave any positive feedback for him, please do that there. And yeah, it really helps us out with discoverability and all that good things. If you're in a position to and you would like to support us a little bit more, you can also check out patreon.com/statcheck or YouTube membership in the link below. $5 a month gets you access to our Patreon Discord, where you can chat to wonderful people like us and FLoof and a whole bunch of other people, including the aforementioned Liam and Nassim, who are in that Discord and reasonably active. It's a great place to be, and I strongly recommend it, especially if you want to take part in things like our TTS League, the Vibe Check League, which has just got onto its 4th round. I assume someone really good is winning it right now, Nathan.
I actually have not looked at the rankings whatsoever. I just literally
You've just been pairing every round.
I've just
Great,
been
thanks.
pairing every round, and then
Thank you for your
resolving
incredible
pairing
investment in our
issues.
community.
Yeah, just repairing everybody and dealing with the 5,000 DMs I get about it. Yes, that's all I do.
So-
Yes.
I just want to go through the 3 and O's for that after your plugs because it's very funny.
That sounds good. You can also check out all of our sponsors, including the wonderful Red Dragon, who sponsor the Vibe Check League, using the links in the description below. That's Red Dragon, Saltar Games, Will and Yutani, and J15 Games. You can find discount codes for all of them below. Red Dragon is a gaming store in Ottawa, Canada. You can find anything that you're looking for that a normal game store will provide. Saltar Games does tokens and WC Terrain. Will and Yutani does the WC Terrain. And if you're looking for GW style terrain, widgets, and tokens, you can check out J15 Games below. If you're interested in getting coaching from either myself, Liam, Nassim, Tyler, Naj, Lucas, or Pumbaa, please do check out stat-check.com/coaching or coaching@stat-check.com. There are now 7 of us maniacs. So if you're looking for help with any army, you're prepping up for whether you're, I guess not WCW at this point, it's probably a little late, but if you're prepping up for an event, you've got the new season coming up, or you just want to be ready and waiting for the balance data slate when it drops in December, drop a link, drop us a message. We'd be more than happy to match you up with a coach and put you on your best foot forward. Lastly, you can check out the other shows on the network at youtube.com/statcheck, where you can find us live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 p.m. UK, every Tuesday, as well as all of the other shows on the network, X&1, End of the Matrix, Take All Comers, and Champions of 40K. Champions of 40K just posted their new episode 12, with somebody whose name I'm forgetting. Apologies to Steve. But yeah, wonderful people doing a lot of incredible content on our network, and we are super happy to be able to provide it all for you. With that, we're going to go on to show questions, I think, after Jeremy does that thing. But I'm just going to remind everybody that if you want to ask a question on the show and guaranteed to have it answered, please do remember to check out the Patreon or the YouTube membership. You can ask it in our show questions thread, or you can super chat live here on YouTube while we are doing the live show, or the secret third way, just ask a really good question. We'll do our best. With that said, Jeremy, who's 3-0 in the Vibe Check League right now? Let's
So currently 3-0 in the Vibe Check League. We have Kyle Faller. I don't know. There's an I after the 2 L, so I'm not too sure. Playing Black Templars. We have Alex Taus on Space Wolves. We have Anton Vasson on Chaos Demons. We have the good old John Winter Russell, the nicest Canadian I know, on Astra Militarum. We have Stephen Ross on Necrons. We have Dick Vanderhorst on Chaos Knights. Josie Cartwright on World Eaters. Sam Lemon on Sisters. And George McBain on GSC.
GSC only one of the 3-0s. Clearly a balanced army. All right, Jeremy, kick us away with questions.
Oh, it's me. Okay.
You can do it.
Or
I'll do it. Actually,
I don't really care who. Just one of you, please do it.
The super chat for this week is from Ben McJurek. Thank you for the $5, Ben McJurek. If the devil offered you to always make your cult ambush rolls, what would you offer in return?
Anthony.
Anthony Soul.
Yeah, I'll give him
You
vanilla.
just offer. You just give him vanilla.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
It's like the
Did I
Bender damned army scene. It's like throwing your firstborn child into the hot soup. I'd do that with Anthony in a heartbeat for all passing cult ambush.
Yeah, Pickles would never forgive us, though.
Did I mention?
The thing is, as well,
by the
it's
way,
probably
what,
only going to last
go ahead.
one edition, but it's probably not worth it. But that's fine. Anthony won't mind. He'll understand the hustle.
FLoof, what
Did I
you wanna
mention that so when we first got matched up, because we're doing the math as like Ganyo and Alex are finishing up their game or whoever was playing, we realized that I'm playing against Vanilla, and he looks at me and goes, "How good are you at combat sports? How about we just fight in the parking lot? Because I would rather have that than going to GSC." So that was basically my first impression with Vanilla, and it was great. But also, yes, now I'm throwing him to the devil so I can make the cult ambush rolls.
Fair.
100%.
All right, now we'll go to the question that is currently sitting in our chat. that Jeremy had prepared for highlighting, which is for those of us who enjoy the American discovers the rest of the world aspect, where would you like to go on a 40K tour, even if it feels a bit out of reach? New Zealand. New Zealand would be great. Or Australia. Both of those are great. And horrifically expensive to fly to for events.
I would want to play my friend Alex Matheson at his shop in Hawaii. I would like to go to Nottingham at some point, and I would like
That's
to
America.
go. And I would, well, yeah, but I'm not American.
Okay, fair.
And then I would also like to participate in the French War Games Day.
Those are all good options.
Yeah, I really want to make it out to New York. I got really close, but Anthony couldn't manage the tunnels. So.
No, the New Yorker decided to drive to New York and got hit by traffic.
He's not a Gene Stealer cult player. He doesn't know how to cult ambush appropriately from the tunnels.
That's true.
See, the thing is, though, is I still need to travel like the rest of America to do any kind of events, because I only just mug the events over here on the West Coast. So, like, I do want to go to East Coast eventually, but also, I don't know. I don't want to... Canada, yeah, just because I just want to play with nice people. Man, I'll just come up to Canada. Yeah, go to the Ottawans.
No, we should drag him out to Petawawa.
There.
Sure.
That's an adventure. Like Customs, I was going to Petawawa. They were like, what are you doing?
I mean, Petawawa was a military town. For someone non-military to be flying into Ottawa to drive to Petawawa, you definitely are going to raid some red flags.
Yep.
Fair.
I just want to play Steve Joel in Kiwiland, because I think that's the only time I'll see Steve Joel in person.
I want to do a battle report with Steve Joel and have him narrate it afterwards.
There you go. All right. The next question from the questions that weren't in the question thread is: in many competitive games, an AI has been developed which eventually beats the world's top 40, the top players. If one was developed for Warhammer, what would it do better than top players do currently?
Remember the rules.
Oh. God damn it.
I mean, it would just play the best list. It wouldn't be like attached to things. That's probably the biggest hurdle. Yeah. It would just play the best army and it wouldn't fuck about.
It wouldn't try to snowflake, and also it wouldn't get tilted over dice rolls.
Oh.
It would never miss screening for 9-inch deep strikes, not even once. It would make every
Sometimes you have to miss screening for 9-inch deep strikes.
It is true. Sometimes you do have to.
And you're hoping that they won't see the spot that you left. That's a valid
It would make
strategy.
the most perfect screening possible, though. It would never make a mistake with it, not even once.
Look, the real trick, okay, leave a 9-inch gap wherever you've left your dice, and then your opponent will never look at it.
I will say, as a GSC player who like also is
so like
just
put
a
your dice
person
tray
that
right
never
where
wants
you
to-
don't want to screen.
Yep, 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's worked, but it's definitely not worked.
As someone who just never wants to inconvenience people, but also plays a deep strike army, like the amount of times I have to be like, hey, can you move your phone and stuff and dice? I'm gonna put 20 guys here to blow you off the board. Yeah, sorry. Anyways.
Yeah, no, 100%. I will never begrudge anybody making me move it, but not everybody does. And, edges are edges.
Yeah.
All right. The next question is for Jeremy, and then we have a question for FLoof. This one's for Jeremy. How many unique ways can a bipedal model be posed?
I don't know. Infinitely, technically, if they have full articulation, because you can just do any amount here. So.
That's actually the truth. If you're trying to pose models more than monopose, it's just you, green stuff, and a knife, and you'll figure it out. All right, the first question for FLoof is from Grant, which is, how does FLoof like their eggs cooked?
I am one of those people who I just look up guides for anything and everything, and I realized I'd never been taught a good scramble, so I just looked up a Gordon Ramsay, just actively doing it, take it on and off the heat. That way you can throw a little butter or cream in at the end. A good scramble is fucking phenomenal. Unless we're talking hamburgers, and then you got a sunny side up egg on any kind of burger, and I'm sold. That's the American in me. That's God bless America. Nothing makes me more patriotic than an egg on a good burger. Oh.
I love it.
I was gonna say a fried egg on top of some nice Canadian beef might change your mind.
There was this place called Crispy Burger that was in San Diego that we went to every night, because the first night we went there, and it's just a place that just roasts the meat, right? Makes it crispy. And it was the most glorious thing. I thought I was getting a vision from the Four-Armed Emperor. They have their whole menu, and at the bottom it just says add egg, $2. And I was like, I found my place. This is where I want to die. I'm happy here. And that was the only way I was able to play 8 rounds of a 300 model list effectively.
Fair.
Solid.
All right. The next question is for both Innis and FLoof. What drew, and is also from Grant, what drew both Innis and FLoof to GSE? Was it the playstyle, the aesthetic, or both?
God, my answer's so ass. When they dropped in 7th edition, they were the only way to access the telepathy discipline for the Tyranid super faction. So I was able to make my Hive Tyrants invisible using Gene Circles, and that was what I wanted. So I bought into the Deathwatch Overkill box because I wanted invisible Hive Tyrants. And then I just kind of stuck with it from there.
FLoof, what drew you?
I have idiot friends, and I love them very much. For a birthday 2 years ago, my buddy gives me a model. He's like, "You play that Warhammer game, right?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Here's your birthday present. I went to the shop and they said this was a Tyranid," and he hands me a Sanctus. And I didn't have it in me to tell him that he was wrong. So I got into GSC because he gave me a Sanctus.
This is the most amazing long con ever. It cost you money to participate in this.
And I was like, you know what? They're related to Tyranids, and Tyranids are my favorite faction, so let's go for it. And so I lightly get into it. I buy this is 8th edition. I buy the book to look through it, and I go, what the fuck is going on here? So I actually got rid of it. I got rid of most of my GSC stuff because I just didn't understand it. And then I got into Necromunda, and in Necromunda you can infect any of the gangs with GSC, and that's actually what led to my army theme, which is it's a Necromunda gang. That's why I also have the mouse trains, which I think are some of the greatest fucking models out there. Is that I had all of these gangs that were infected, and then like a Black Friday sale happened at my store, and I traded in like a Sisters and like Necron army I had, and I traded in a Necron army, and I bought only a little bit of GSC, but I bought Sisters, a little bit of Tau, and a little bit of Admech, and I kit bashed all of those to be GSC as well. And so GSC became my passion project of literally how many factions can I fit into one army and still make it work.
All of them is basically the answer. You can pretty much fit something from everything in.
Maybe not Necrons.
No, you could do like a Doomsday Arc as your like Goliath trucks or whatever, right?
Yep.
True.
My favorite is for orcs. I used a boom deck, a Snazwagon, have a guy in the back with a mortar, all that type of stuff. I call my boom deck a Ridge Runner. But I left the orc driving it, but I painted him purple, and I just say, yeah, we don't know what's going on. We think it's like an AI or something, and it just drives itself. We don't know. But yeah, that's how I have my orc faction representation.
Perfect.
I love that.
Yeah.
The next question is from Micah McComb. Got our team comp improved from last week's Eldar question. Demon Monster Mash with 3 Brigands, Innocence 3X Reapers, 3 Vendi, Ironstorm List, Rubric, Raiders, CSM, MSU, 20 terms plus Angron, World Leaders, Tyranid, Cinematic, big stuff. Any glaring holes or matchups to avoid / blunt?
I have no idea. That team comp sounds wild. Good luck. Immediate thought is you probably don't have great answers for Gene Stealer Cult.
Yeah.
But, you know, who does?
It's a 5-man team event. What's the likelihood that more than like one of their teams?
Guard seems bad for you, which seems like not fun.
I will say to the point of there's only going to be one GSC player. I also just want to make a note. Cali Cup was very much a weird thing. There were 4 GSC players in California, and they just all happened to show up there. There's not a swarm of GSC. So if you don't have a good GSC matchup, you're kind of all right.
Depends where you live. If you're in Australia, good luck. But
yeah.
Fair.
Well, that's just for being in Australia.
That's it.
The next one is from Goran, which is what skills do you need to master to play armies like World Leaders and the Blood Angels very well?
Timing.
So like melee pressure.
Timing.
Kind of armies. Timing.
It's all about going when it's right, not going when it's not right. It's, are you going to win the game if you push now? Or are you going to lose the game if you wait? How long could you wait? You know, it's all about getting to the point where how can you build a critical mass of resources that when you go, it breaks your opponent's back. And that's about getting the timing right. Don't go too early. Don't go too late. thread the needle, and then have good combat mechanics. That's do your piling consolidations, put your models in the right places. That's a lot of micro mechanics, right? You've got to be able to do things correctly, not get caught out by heroics, not get caught out by the wrong CP expenditure, and paying attention to when your opponent doesn't have it, which then brings in matchup knowledge, which is very important as well, because you can only get the timing right if you know what your opponent could do in response to you pushing now, or what they couldn't do if you push now.
Yeah, that makes sense. The thing that terrifies me more than anything else is a Blood Angels or World Leaders player that knows exactly when to just sit back and go.
Yeah,
I fear the ones that can roll sixes on their advances when they need to, but you should. Your
sure,
sounds more realistic.
Better to be lucky than good.
I'm gonna hurt Jeremy a little bit and skip to John for another GSC question first.
What are we doing here? I had the next one in there.
What's the most smooth brain of all GSC detachments for my smooth brain? Says
Biosanctic. Go hit things with hammers.
Yeah. They're about as intelligent as the aberrants they put on the board. Like,
it's the second best GSC detachment. It's the easiest army to play in the game because you have like the most get out of jail free cards. You have fight on death, stand back up, come back to life, bonuses to charge, bonuses to pilot the consolidation, and a +1 to wound stratagem. And oops, you killed me, take some damage anyway stratagem. What more could you need?
Which is hilarious.
You're just like, look, something happened to me and I didn't like it, so here's my response, right? It's effectively playing like a blue deck in Magic. You're just like, no, that didn't happen. Stop it. Get some help. Take some damage.
I think so. My first army was just a full melee only Tyranid that was just spam Gene Stealers. And I think just, thinking of the thought of 50 attacks from 10 Gene Stealers in Biosanctic just is the best way for me to feel alive again. Because that is just, you throw it onto a point with like the +1 to wound or whatever they have. Hell, bang a 5-inch charge from Deep Strike, and it's just like, GG,
really
shake
good.
my hand. They're
that
really
unit,
good.
Yeah, you spend more +1 to wound on that strategy with the Patriarch, it kills Magnus on average. And that's what I was really missing in my life, was just like enough of that red fucking Cyclops to just be able to go, what if you just stopped it and you just kill it? And I love that. And it's all I ever really wanted for Christmas, so.
Love it. Now we have two questions from Frank. The first one is, how should Templar players build their list to take advantage of the buff/change to Fervent Acclamation? And do you think and do you see that as potentially helping the Crusaders detachment enough to make it viable? I assume the answer is no.
So,
look, Frank, I'm going to put this in the nicest terms. I don't know what the buff or change was, and that probably means that it's not that important.
Essentially what it was is GW confirmed that if you use the stratagem to put a Black Templars unit in another vow, then the enhancement that if they have enhancement that triggers off of having a certain vow active, they get it.
And the strats as well, right?
Strats was already clear.
Yeah, but it's like, yes, my
it's
CP
strictly
hungry,
the enhancement that changed, and
can
so
be even CP hungrier. Great.
Yeah, the focus on it is basically, do I build around lethals or sustained or something and then just every turn put my 5-up brick into 5-up Feel No Pain.
Just play Champions of Rust, dude. Just play Champions of Rust. You can do all that shit just with 30 Wolfen. It's way better.
30 Wolfen and still like 12 Storm.
How do you like the idea of 30 Wolfen, all with their grenade launchers with blast?
No, please no.
All right, how many?
It's only 75 shots a Wolfen squad on average.
How many Sword Brethren is too many Sword Brethren?
Probably 10.
31.
Fair. Legally too many.
I think you can get away. I think if you're playing Templates, you can get away with 1 unit of 5.
Yeah, they're still a decent Hellbred caddy, but I don't love them. They're so fragile. They're so slow.
Yeah, they have no invul and they have no defensive aside from the Feel No Pain that you might not actually have if you're building around the sustained build.
Or lethal to have Hellbred to have rules. Yeah.
It feels like they're just a taxi for Hellbrick, or like just like a character worth it, but you only have like the one character worth it right now.
Yeah,
so
but it's what, 135 points for 5 now?
Yeah.
Aren't they like 150?
Maybe they are 150 now.
They go down again? Because like I remember they were 135 when Jack was playing them. Yeah, they're 150 per 5.
Okay, yeah. So 5 of them is more expensive than 5 Aberrants.
You could just run 5 Assault Intercessors, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah. Wound rerolls on Hellbreak seems pretty good. Yeah, you don't have a 2 damage sweep, but that's basically it.
Right. Innes, which army would you guys have taken to WCW if you decided to go? This question's from Jay.
what we've been talking
Guys.
about all episode is my guess.
There you go.
I would have played GSC because I don't hate myself.
Fair.
Fair.
Isaac asks, if you happen to run into someone who is just completely wrong on their rules interpretations, but you have to deal with it because they are the TO, what do you do?
Vote with your wallet and stop attending their events, and make it very clear to them and the rest of the community that's why you're not participating in their events. And that may be painful short term, but the reality is that until they start listening to reason,
Passively aggressively ask us about it in Discord. That'll solve all your problems.
sure, I'm offering him an actual solution here.
Yeah, I know. I'm being facetious. You already did the actual solution. Now I can be an asshole. That's how this works.
Go on Reddit and create a post hating on them in public.
Oh,
Do not, in fact,
Posting
do
on
that.
Reddit
Do
does
not
do a
that.
lot.
I
Hold
hate
them out
Reddit.
on Facebook.
Oh, yes. On the Facebook Warhammer Competitive ITC page. There you go.
40k shitposting and tactics. That's where you got to go.
All right. The next question is from Goran, which is, looked at the WCW roster and a bunch of top-ranked European players are missing, like Liam, Zollinger, and other top players from countries like England, Germany, and so on. Asked in the German community about it, and some TOs said it was really hard to get tickets this year. What do you think about this?
We applied for some in Scotland. We didn't get approved for them. I know a lot of people that after last year just were like, it was expensive and was only okay. So just decided not to go, having gone already, or it was just expensive and couldn't afford to go back to like years. Just, it's hard to get there from Europe.
Yep.
And yeah, it was hard.
But I can say right now that it's not difficult to apply if you actually, listen and follow the instructions that you're given. And I can say this, that if anyone happens to be having those struggles, please reach out to me, because I have helped many events reach out and successfully apply for tickets.
Jeremy, I didn't even get a response 2 years in a row.
In terms of top players, there's actually something that's kind of interesting here, because this is one of the things that I covered in my excuse me, that I covered in my article, was the number of top-ranked ELO players. And last year there were, I've gone through and I've done a couple tweaks because I missed a couple people, and a couple people fell out. But basically, last year there were 49 of the top 100 ranked ELO players in attendance at the event, and this year there are 51. So the event has grown, and the competitiveness of the event remains very high. If you look at
it's still a very good event. If you're in the US, it's kind of silly not to go if you get a ticket, right, and you can afford to. But for Europeans, it's like it's going to be a year-on-year off for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, and I think year-on-year off for the Europeans just makes sense.
But come on, guys, just run that fucking Warhammer World. What are we doing?
I don't think does Nottingham have enough like hotel space for that many people?
Yes, Nottingham is a major UK city, dude. Chill. You can handle that. You can handle our 200-person tournament. I promise. It's not layopen.
Oh, damn. All right. Griggs asks, based on stats and your personal experience, how much would a singles tier list differ between WTC terrain and GW terrain?
Not a ton.
I don't think it would really change that much. Like there are some armies that obviously will be different.
Generally, I find it tends to be more unit choices that change. Like you change your tech pieces from terrain set to terrain set.
Yeah,
You don't tend to change like the core of the army. There's like a little bit of shuffling within tiers, right? Like sometimes it's like, okay, if you're playing on GW light boards or WZ light boards, then Guard are going to be better than GSC. If you're playing on heavy boards, it's probably the other way around, right? Like you see some shuffling like within S tier, within A tier, and you maybe run different shooting units, or but the armies tend to be good for core scoring reasons and damage output, and that's going to be good regardless of terrain. With like some wild exceptions, like some stuff is just like wildly at the bottom, and then like is better because of specific terrain qualifications. But it doesn't tend to be armies that are good anyway. That are just like wildly better on one terrain set than another.
Yeah,
I don't think we see like a huge difference in the stats for that, do we?
For
like
event terrain, no, it's something that we've continually tried to do. The problem is that a lot of events just don't put it in their pack.
Yeah.
So digging it up for the 100, even though 50 events in the last few weeks is a lot of time.
All right. Chris Polly has the next question, which is, after seeing Anthony's Cali Cup results, when was the last time you lost in the first round of a GT? For me, it was War Masters. That was the last GT I went to, and I lost in the first round. There you go.
Would have been the UTC finals at the beginning of the year, and I did not have a good weekend, but that was almost entirely on me.
I want to say, I mean, it was like the last one I went to, which was funny because I was feeling very cocky going into it. I played against a Tyranid Monster Mash and never took secret missions before in my life, and decided that mission was like, hey, I'll figure out how to do it, and didn't realize it caps you at only scoring 20. So I thought I was gonna get 35 and it'll take me to the 40, and then turn 5, the guy's like, that's not how that works. And I was like, oh, I'm an idiot, huh? Okay, I'm gonna go over there in the 01 bracket now.
LGT
We had-
2022 is the last one I can remember. Not this edition.
Yeah, we had a very hilarious interaction at All Is Dust, one of our larger events up here, when my friend Francois, this was 2 years ago now, paired into two of the best players and lost both of them, and then walked up to his opponent round 3, and she just looked at him and went, "What are you doing here?"
This is not where you usually are. All right.
Proceeded to win the game and then get the exact same response from his friend who he paired into on round 4.
It's brutal, man. I always stand by. There used to be a big joke of like a lot of armies in 8th edition where you would lose round 1, and if you lost round 1 because you like paired a good player, you did grudge match or whatever, and you lost your game 1 and you paired into the aggressor bracket, you were just like, oh no, dude, everybody's got their fucking Indominus starter set, 18 aggressors, and you just look around and you're like, I'm playing Horde Orcs, dude. What am I doing? I'm just gonna lose. And it happened like 3 or 4 times to like friends of mine who were just like, yeah, dude, I lost round 1 and then I paired into the guy with Gulliman and 18 aggressors, and I just got rolled. It was great.
Oops.
It's good times.
Riley asks, what is the most underrated breakfast food?
Haggis.
It's
I
true,
mean, I
though. Haggis,
would probably
haggis is
say,
great.
echoing on what Floof said earlier,
What the
scrambled
hell
eggs.
is haggis?
Oh no,
Is good.
That's a
Yeah.
mistake, probably.
You're-
that's a cultural
you're dealing with
experience.
someone
Is what
who's
it is.
deeply American.
I would actually
Uh,
agree. If haggis is a breakfast
It's
food, that is
mostly just fried meat, but
It looks like you stuffed fried meat in a potato. Good
yeah, more or
lord.
less. It's
Sure.
great.
Okay.
It's really good. It's spiced meat. Don't think about what it's made of too much, but the same as sausages.
I mean,
don't do that.
It's sausage meat. Don't think about it too much.
Exactly.
The most underrated breakfast food is when you make biscuits and gravy and you put the gravy over scrambled eggs.
Ooh, that's a
Okay,
good
yeah, that does
idea.
sound
That's
good.
just smart.
That's
That's just
yeah.
smart.
I open up 2 biscuits, I put some scrambled eggs on the plate, gravy on everything. It's great. It's great.
Now I just want.
And
I want
for anyone
breast-
who's thinking about gravy, it is not the gravy you're thinking of. If
Oh yeah. It's
biscuits
you
and
fry up
gravy is
some-
very different
you-
than like
you
table
brown
gravy
some
and-
sausage. You put
Not that kind of
flour
sausage.
on that sausage. Okay, all right, not haggis. All right,
No,
Let's
not even
calm down here.
sausage, dude.
and then
You can make a haggis
milk
gravy. It'd be good.
It's
That sounds pretty
milk and sausage. One needs to calm down and relax.
Never.
Milk and sausage,
Not
also
even
known as
once.
gravy. Hold on.
So gravy is I just want to do biscuits and sausage gravy, but with poutine now instead.
Okay,
Just
we're now
put it on
prevaricating.
different,
Let's move on.
Great,
Ooh.
let's do it. Man, I'm hungry. Murray C asks, which GSC detachment is Innis going to play next? Floof, you should also answer this question. Which GSC
Well,
detachment are?
Well, now Host is starting to do well, so he has to do well with that, so he can claim that one.
That's true. I
He's,
do have to.
he's
do
go,
that.
he,
Yeah.
he took Outlander from Eric. He's probably going to take Brood Search from Danny. So
I already did.
I've laid the
People-
groundwork.
People were asking Daddy. Like Daddy posted the results of the Teach Call Discord. He was like, "Oh, that's really cool, Daddy. Well done on the event win. How did Innis do?"
Okay, that's fucking beautiful.
I'm so
And
sorry,
then
man. You don't
and
deserve
then
it.
I
My
don't
list
know.
is literally named after him. I don't try to hide it at all, but I will claim the credit if anyone wants to give it to me.
Actually, you should figure out Brood Brothers because that's
No, I
good,
refuse.
right?
Look, Nassim showed me a list,
If
and I looked at it and I
anything-
was like, it's just not good. It was just 6 Red Runners and like 3 Hellhounds, 3 Lehman Russes. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm sure that's fine.
Human Russes without orders. Ugh.
Yeah, they still get the full rerolls, and it's whatever, right?
Every time I've looked at that, I'm like, oh, Hellhounds. They like take away cover and like
Or
I could like
Guardians.
do extra and do all this stuff, and I look at it and go, I could just play
a
host
Ridge Runner right
and,
over
do,
there.
and do this, but better. Like I have Ridge Runners. I have this. I can do this myself.
I kind of want to look at Alex McDougall's been messaging me about Xenocreed a little bit. Sebastian Gayart played it for 5-1 at an event in Germany. Like Xenocreed is fine.
I think it's good
I'm
now. Yeah.
kind of inclined to just go back to Outlander Claw. I think it's still the best attachment. I think Outlander Claw is the best army in the game right now. But such is life,
Yep.
right? Can't always play the most fun ones. My next
fair.
event is super dense terrain, so it's kind of a little sketchy.
Xeno
So I'm
created
kind of
it.
up in the air. I'm not quite that. I need someone else to write the list for me first, and then I'll steal it and claim the credit on the internet. That's like actually the important part here. Like, cool your fucking jets.
You said you've been talking to McDougal, right? He surely has a list written.
Look, McDougal's list is a McDougal list. I respect that man deeply, but the way he plays the game and the way I play the game are not the same.
And then the last question for the evening is going to be from the Lone Yank, which is, do you think the matchup of Outlander Claw and Biosanctic favors Outlander Claw?
Yes. Outlander is like, you can't really lose to melee pressure as Outlander. You just kind of go, what if instead of doing that, you lost in your deployment zone? And then it does that and you win the game. It's great. Biosanctic can have 9-inch charges on the layer of neophytes around their deployment zone as much as they like.
Yeah,
Rude.
I was having this fucking thought at the start of Cali because it was before the Outlander guy dropped, and Alex Staffalababada is there. I can never remember his name, but he's on Brood's. Thank you. Very, very good name. Just long name, and I'm terrible with names. And I'm like in my head trying to figure out what like Brood Surgeon and Outlander is. Outlander and a host and a Brood Surgeon. I'm just like, oh god, my head.
Yeah. It's like
I
the
don't
worst
wanna
thing about
know.
it is the game starts at like the attachment that's better starts at like +2, and then every failed combat roll just drags it closer. And it's
Yep.
like, you should win. You even probably will win, but it's still, you're praying to the 4-up Emperor. That's the problem.
It's gonna be round 3. Everyone's 6 cult ambush rolls in, and you're just like, what are we doing here?
What's
Why?
dead? You just like that's actually the biggest counter to a GC player is just walk over them and be like, can you tell me definitively what's dead on that tray right now? And they'll just be like, no, not at all.
My favorite thing at Cali Cup was when my opponent would look at the side of the board and it's just filled with bodies, just thrown everywhere, right? And they're like, okay, what if this is dead? Like there's like 80 bodies over there. What is actually not coming back? And I would point at my box that has 5 acolytes in it and says, those 5 idiots. And that's it.
Amazing.
Pain.
Oh god, cult ambush is terrible.
That is all of the questions. So now we are going to do
Oh no, it's the
the thing
worst
that
part of the
Innes
show.
hates the most, which is
He
we're
just-
gonna.
He doesn't have to do it. So
Yeah, Innes, I'm here, so I'll do it. If you join the most expensive tier of the show, which is $15 a month and is the Crisp High 5 tier, you get several tangible benefits. One of them is you get a Crisp High 5 in person. Innes is going to start playing a snap, obviously, on camera. Good job, Innes.
he's on camera though.
You get a Crisp High 5, and then you get a bunch of other personalized benefits.
Oh, he's
Oh,
building
Brood
a list.
Brothers. Oh my god, it's worse. It's even worse than Snap because it's Brood Brothers instead. All right. And then you get thanked at the end of the episode using this amazing spreadsheet that I get to read from that Innes hates horribly. So, at the end of every episode, you get thanked. That's part of the tier benefits outside of in-person ones. The first one is thank you to Chris, has officially left Scotland for England, Irvine. Thank you, Willow Weeks. Thank you, Dan F. Thank you, Luke, Dan F. McCarthy. Thank you, David. Look not upon the alien, for the alien looks back Clark, appropriate for this episode. Thank you, bruh. Not gonna NGL, but I'm not risen RN, no cap, just full Ohio, SMH, my head, FR, period. Thank you, James H. Thank you, Golden Dan F. Miller. I liked looking over and seeing Innes, the youngest person, just shaking his head at me. Thank you, Fungus. Thank you, John V8. How did I get in here? I am not good with computer. Thank you, Cam F. Dan Morton, hog emoji. Thank you, Archon. I know we wiped, but I got to uppercut a Hive Tyrant Hall. Thank you, Josiah Gettle. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, Isaac. I forgot to buy an LVO ticket. If you're selling, message me on Discord or Facebook under Isaac Tarada. Thank
I
you.
need one too. Wait, hold on. Message me first.
No, message me first because we're looking for one for a friend.
I'm officially
Oh,
standing in front of him.
Thank you, Pickles. Thank you, Thomas. I forgot to buy an Alliance Open ticket. Turns out I had bought 2 for Coision. I'm glad that we've used this as a space where we can talk about our foibles. Thank you. I'm taking a secret mission. Can you point out all of your battle line for me? Thank you. This space intentionally left blank. Thank you. It's after Halloween. Is it safe to start playing holiday music and to ask if super heavy walkers could have true line of sight at all times? And then thank you again for people who are in the bottom that says this space for rent for one tab. Why would shooting not cost many points for another? And then nerf spreadsheet tabs for a third. Also, everybody who's playing Christmas music before Thanksgiving, please stop.
It's after
That's
Thanksgiving.
wild.
Stop.
It's after
Stop.
Thanksgiving.
Only in
What are you
Canada.
talking?
I stand by the fact that
Canada
Christmas
has
music and
Thanksgiving.
Christmas decorations should only be legal between the dates of the 23rd and the 27th. Outside of that,
Oh.
get rid of it. Fuck it.
It should
No, I
only
think
be
you can go
legal.
December 25th to
Fine.
January 6th.
5 days. 5 days.
Only
Too much Christmas
only in
on the list.
December should you play Christmas music. Only in
I have
December.
worked too much retail.
I
to,
think
like,
you
use
have to
music
wait
anymore.
until after Thanksgiving. It's the
Yeah, it's
fact
after
that
Thanksgiving.
Okay, listen, I'm American. Time revolves around only America. Nowhere else exists. It's only after
100%.
Oh, I'm going to
Thanksgiving.
cancel through this.
Actually, I do
Tell me
agree.
how your country's doing these days.
Don't tell me that. No, we're not. I'm leaving.
And with that, Ennis,
All right, guys. Thank you so much to everybody for being with us for episode 114, Biosanctic Winsurge, featuring FLoof, and a special guest appearance from Nassim and Liam. Please do remember to check out all the links in the description. Thank you to everybody for being with us. If you're at a tournament this weekend, please do have the very best of luck. Unless you're playing GSC, in which case, fucking stop it. Get some
Yeah.
losses under you. Stop getting me nerfed, all right? None of you guys were doing shit back before the balance data slate. Let's go back to that, okay? I'll just keep winning tournaments, and you guys can stop.
And I can pretend that I'm winning tournaments. It'll be great.
Nathan, do the thing.
Why?